Stadium, too many people who had been given tickets who weren't really Mets fans. Well, the real Mets fans are here, crowding City Hall Plaza, City Hall Park, Park Row. There are literally thousands of young people, high school people, college students. I don't think there are too many kids in school today in New York City because this crowd is full of the real Mets fans. They have been here since 8 o'clock this morning, some of them. They're waiting for a look at their heroes, which they're going to get later on this afternoon when they appear at ceremonies here on City Hall steps. You can see this crowd. It spills out over all the way from Broadway to Park Row through the park. These are the people who have come to the Mets games religiously over the years and have followed this team. These are the real fans Ron Darling wanted to see, and I hope he gets a chance to see them here today. The program, as we understand it at this point, will have Mayor Koch introducing a number of celebrities, of course, including the governor, the borough president of Queens, the city council president. We will be hearing from some of the Mets. As it stands at this point, we'll be hearing from Ray Knight, who, of course, was the MVP of the series, Gary Carter, Keith Hernandez, and Mookie Wilson, who is the Met with the longest service on the club, the oldest Met in a sense. He's not oldest in age, but the oldest, the Met who's been there the longest continuous service, Mookie Wilson. All expected to speak here, but that's quite a bit away yet. What we're doing now is watching a frenzied crowd being stirred up even more by the songs that they're playing on the speakers out here. Most frequently, the music from the Mets video, Let's Go, Mets Go, which you've heard ad nauseum by now, I'm sure. But nobody in this crowd is sick of it. Everybody is delighted to be here today, to have a day off from school or a day off from their job. And just to follow up on a point that Ellen Fleischer was making, the sanitation department has already distributed its list of top 10 trash-generating events. That's what they call it on the list. They gave that out earlier today. The first one on the list, let me see what it was here. The first one on the list, I believe, was from World War II, sure. 1945, August 14th to 15th, victory in Japan Day, 5,438 tons. Anyway, they've given out a list of the top 10 trash-generating events, as they call it, and we're all going to be waiting to see how much trash this thing generates. Of course, there isn't as much ticker tape as there used to be, but there's quite a lively crowd here along Broadway, through the canyons of steel, and everybody is anticipating and waiting for the Mets to show up here at City Hall. And I don't give this building's chances of surviving this. I don't rate them too highly, but we're going to see a little bit later on. So this is Tony Guida at City Hall. Back to the studio.
Well, if this is a trash-generating event, God bless every single shovelful.
Yeah, New Yorkers are resourceful. I'm not worried about not having enough ticker tape anymore. Let me trust you. You know, in the when the Sox took the first 2 games and they went up to Boston to continue the World Series, there was a headline in the Boston Herald that said, "Sweep dreams. How soon they turn." Now we know what the sweep dreams are.
Exactly.
The sanitation guys out there.
Out there with their brooms.
We'll have more for you in a minute.
Brands, great prices. You'll get the lowest regular prices for these brands at Grand Union. You can prove it with the Price Finder.
But wait, look at these low special prices.
Hawaiian Punch drink boxes, assorted flavors, 3-pack, 8.45 ounces, just 59 cents. Quaker Instant Oats, assorted varieties, 10-envelope box, $1.49. Cap'n Crunch cereal, 16-ounce box, just $1.89. All at Grand Union.
Only the best, always for less.
Enjoy extra sugar-free gum.
You get extra flavor, extra fun, in extra sugar-free gum.
Extra, the only leading sugar-free gum with NutraSweet, gives you extra refreshing flavor that lasts an extra long time.
Extra flavor for that extra long ride. Extra flavor for that extra long ride. When you chew it extra, the extra fresh flavor lasts an extra long time.
Extra lasts extra long.
Oh, I love butter.
It's not butter.
Of course it's butter.
Nope, no cholesterol.
Nothing tastes as good as butter.
It just tastes like butter, but has absolutely no cholesterol.
I've been eating butter 48 years, and
47 and a half. For 6 months you've been eating...
I can't believe it's not butter.
That's the name.
If you love butter, but hate cholesterol, try I Can't Believe It's Not Butter. It's flavored with sweet cream buttermilk for real butter taste.
And you won't believe it's not butter.
Just taking a look a second ago at our camera shot of the parade route, and the ticker tape is really beginning to rain down right now. Can we take a look at that before we switch to Jane? Just do we have the camera shot of that? It is. Look at this. It's really beginning to rain. Jane Hansen is standing by in Battery Park, and if you think the Mets are amazing, I think Jane is just as amazing because she already has the tonnage of ticker tape on the ground. Jane, what did you say it was?
I said it is more than 578 tons. That's what the sanitation department is saying at this point. In fact, a few minutes ago, they said the tonnage was so deep that it was knee-high further down the canyon, which means that they had to send a plow through because they were afraid they weren't going to be able to get the cars the Mets will be riding in down the street. That only shows you how eager New Yorkers are to celebrate. Funny thing, coming out of the skies, though, right now we happen to have all kinds of things. In fact, there have been some unshredded telephone books and a few other things. We have against one, I don't know if you can flip over there and see that there's a dummy coming out of one of the windows, and I think that dummy might have on a Mets hat, but I'm not sure. Doesn't look like it has on much else. At any rate, the parade should be beginning very shortly. The Mets will be loading up in 25 different cars. They are all donated. Many of them are antique cars, and of course, they're all convertible. The entire Mets organization will be riding. Many of them will have their families with them. They arrived by bus here just a few minutes ago. The parade, they said, would start at about 12:15. We're a few minutes late, but it should get going at any time. You can see that back over here, and this is where it will begin. The mounted police units are aboard their horses. They are ready to go. So are we. We're just waiting now for the Mets to come parading down or up Broadway. Let's go back to Chuck in the studio.
Okay, Jane, thanks.
Well, the playoffs in the World Series were certainly heart-stopping for the Mets fans, but the entire Mets season was one of excitement. Marv Albert is here now to take a look back at the Mets summer.
Right, Pat. For the Mets, this was indeed a magical run. This was a team that was supposed to win it all season long, and they certainly did. The Mets in domination from opening day on. They excelled in every category, tying their team record of 55 home wins, setting a new mark with 53 road victories. At every level, the Mets performed at least 20 games over 500, except on AstroTurf, where they played at a clip of only 646 baseball. Everyone knows the Mets were baseball's world beaters in '86, but the Mets led baseball in other noteworthy categories, such as most music videos, most GQ covers, most unique haircuts, and most television commercials.
Got the best stuff I've ever seen. Sorry, Dwight.
More milk, 'cause milk's got more.
But the 1986 Mets season began with a frightening scene captured by our cameras this spring.
Watch it! God, dog it! Man, look, are you all right? Just stay where you are. Did it break the glass? Did it break the... Oh, God, it did.
Mookie fully recovered, but as the season got underway, some were asking for a Mets recovery. What's wrong with the 2 and 3 Mets?
This team is out of sync right now, isn't it?
Yeah. We're not playing very well at all as a team.
Then the Mets' runaway train started to roll. Against the Giants, this charitable contribution by Jose Uribe helped the Mets to a 6-game lead through May.
I think by far we're the best club in this division, and you know, I'll say it right now that I believe if anybody can run away with it, the New York Mets can run away with it.
In June, the Mets played 10 games over 500. Despite almost being swept by the Expos, they were a confident bunch.
Even if they did sweep us, you know, they need a lot of help from somebody else, and they're just not going to get it. You know, we're that good.
In July, Mets old-timers watched their 1986 counterparts build the largest lead at the All-Star break since divisional play was unveiled in 1969. Which team is better, the 69 Mets or the 86 version?
This team probably would beat the 69 Mets or the 73 Mets by 73 by 10 games, 69 by a game and a half. But this team's definitely better because of their offense.
If you put these two teams on the same field to compete against one another, no doubt Cleon Jones would say the 69 Mets are the best.
One of the memorable games of the season, after Dave Parker dropped the last down of the 9th inning, the Mets ran out of players, forcing relief pitchers Roger McDowell and Jesse Orozco to alternate in the outfield, and the Mets won in 14. A mini crisis in August when Gary Carter injured his thumb, but the Mets set a club record, winning 8 of 9 on the West Coast trip, doing it without him, capped off by this.
Templeton's coming around to score. Flannery to second. The throw. Out at home. He's out at home. The throw to third. Out at third. The Mets win it 6-5. What a double play.
The Mets made an exhibition stop in Boston, a World Series preview. They eventually increased their lead to 21 games, another record for divisional play. And 10 days later, finally clinched the division on their 6th attempt.
Backman to Hernandez. The unbelievable season is not over.
This club has come so far in so few years that it's just a great feeling to be a part of it.
It's real sweet. Glad to do it at home. We let them down on the road, but I think I enjoyed it more here.
And it should be pointed out, Sal Marciano continuing his string, most consecutive post-game locker room celebrations. Sal was there back in 1969.
Did both of you see the one he had on last night? I know you must
Yes,
have
I
at
did.
the
I
end
definitely
when things
did.
really got loony in the locker room. Could you see it? You were in the Red Sox locker.
I waited around, and I think that Keith Hernandez in particular was feeling no pain.
Yeah, Keith, some of the champagne did not go directly on his head. It found its way into...
He smiled a great deal last night, which is a switch.
What was the, if we can digress for just a second here, what was the mood? You spent the evening with the Red Sox. Now, they must have been really down, especially after they almost won it in Game 6.
I think that
a strike.
People who saw the World Series will come away with one picture in mind, and that is Wade Boggs with the tears streaking down the cheek. Just amazing shots. He's sitting on the bench, and several of the Red Sox players did remain on the bench, but they wanted to make the point. You know, people talk about the fact that this club is snake-bitten, and they point to the Red Sox blowing it in 1946, and then again in 67 and 75, and now in 86, that this is not a club that choked. And I agree with that. That's a word that's turned around quite frequently. They came back last night, and they came back...
Almost.
Right, yeah. Right. They had a solid year. Not many people expected them to be in the World Series, and they were beaten by a better team. I didn't think it would go 7 games, but they were beaten by a superior club.
All I can say is it's just a good thing the Red Sox weren't in charge of the American Revolution, or we'd all still be British subjects. Yeah. We'll have more for you in just a minute.
Before you do another load of laundry, we'd like to make a suggestion. Ask your clothes what they prefer. A cotton dish towel after a meal of pork and beans, a girl's polycotton dress with a taste for chocolate syrup, and nylon shorts that like to play in mud, all ask to be cleaned in different temperatures. So we took temperature-sensitive cleaners for hot, warm, and cold, and combined them in new Liquid Sheer, one detergent that cleans like 3. Watch how Liquid Sheer eats up pork and beans in hot, melts away chocolate in warm, and mops up mud even in cold. So now when your clothes ask for different temperatures, give them a liquid that listens. They'll just fall over themselves to express their appreciation. Introducing new Liquid Sheer, one detergent that cleans like...
U.S. Sprint, may I help you?
People are finding out how much they can save
10%
by signing up with U.S. Sprint during the biggest sale in long-distance history. It's like getting 2 months of long-distance free.
Yes, that's right.
2 months free. But the trick is, you gotta sign up now, because on October 31st, it's over. Call U.S. Sprint now. Find out about it.
U.S. Sprint, may I help you?
What you doing, Grandpa?
Putting on a fresh coat of wax.
Can I watch?
You can do better than that.
Here, hold my raisins.
Sun-made raisins? I used to love these when I was a kid. Still do. You about done?
Yep.
Good. Let's take her for a spin.
Where are we going?
To the store. You're out of raisins.
Sweet Sun-made, America's favorite raisin.
David Byrne of the Talking Heads today on Live at 5.
Your Battery Park.
Yeah, we're going to go to Battery Park in just a second. But My partner here has a real soft heart. I mean, last night you said at the last minute with a shot of Wade Boggs.
Wade Boggs sitting in the dugout with the tears coming down his cheeks. I almost felt guilty.
Yeah.
Almost thought, all right, 68 years, maybe they should have won this year. And then I said, I wiped it out very quickly.
Well, it was a very generous thought anyway,
It's a
Pat.
generous
and
thought,
the Red
but-
Sox appreciate it. Listen, they gave us some terrific baseball, too. But had they won last night, you wouldn't have seen this.
That's true, too.
Take a look. This scene. There we are.
And look at the weather. We've had 3 gloomy days, 1 rain-out game, and look at the weather today.
It is terrific. Look at that ticker tape, or whatever it is. Actually, it isn't ticker tape. Most of it isn't ticker tape.
We're going to try to go to Al Roker at Park Place, I guess, to find out whether this good weather is going to continue for the rest of the day.
It sure is, Pat. I'm telling you, it is gorgeous. We said we would have a mix of clouds and sun and a temperature of 67. I just got off the phone with the National Weather Service, and the temperature is 67 degrees. You see some nice puffy clouds out there. And as you see, we've got a beautiful day. We've got all these folks. They started, hey, how you doing? They started lining up at about 9 this morning. Just incredible. You can see them, the police trying to push the barriers back, people sitting on cherry pictures. And if you take a look up at the windows, you can see people lining the windows up on roofs. It is amazing here. The people are just, every time some confetti comes down, another cheer goes up from the crowd. It is just incredible. And of course, earlier this morning, the road crews were out here painting the, of course, blue and orange stripe down Broadway, the route of the parade, taking it up. We are right now just west of City Hall. And so, of course, the parade's going to come up here, and where you see all those police, it is going to make a right turn, circle around to City Hall for the big ceremony. Again, we have beautiful weather, and as beautiful as the fans behaved yesterday, the people who are here are behaving perfectly. They are just having a good time. They're enjoying themselves. They're having a great time, as you can see. It is perfect for a parade, and I tell you, I was a sophomore in high school at Xavier High School here in Manhattan. Pardon? Here in Xavier High School in Manhattan when the Mets won, and this is more exciting, I think, because I get to be in the middle of it. We'll be here, and of course, just having a good time and bring you some more. Back to you, Pat.
You know, literally and figuratively, he's still a kid.
He is, and I'm glad he's in the middle of it. It's a lot of fun. Last night, obviously, was a roller coaster of emotions for Mets fans who were watching the game, and Connie Collins was with the fans last night as the game progressed.
Bottom of the first at Crazy Eddie's on Broadway. Even the cops are captivated, but too early for any sure bets.
I hope the Mets win. They can do it. They got the magic.
Top of the second, Boston, a home run. Again, it's early.
Yes, that was a home run. That counts as 1 point.
You think the Mets can pull it out?
I don't think it's hopeless just yet.
A piano bar, 2 blocks over, 2 more runs the Bo Sox. It's still early.
Despite 3 runs, I still say the Mets are going to come from behind and beat Boston. Definitely.
Amsterdam's on Amsterdam. 5th inning. Some are getting depressed. But in the 6th and 7th, there's a rally here and there. Suddenly, it was us 6, them 3, and things were looking good. And after the 8th and the 9th, there was this. Connie Collins, News 4, Manhattan.
Well, that enthusiasm you saw right there is apparently getting a bit out of control right now at Wall Street. David Diaz is on the scene for us. David?
Yes, Chuck, what you see is really just a little bit of the result of the impatience. The fans had been waiting very patiently for some time, and then pressure from the back of the crowd, and suddenly the barricade started to collapse forward, people being surged forward, not of their own doing, being pushed from behind. The police rushed in, were able to contain it, but of course, as you can see, there's difficulty for the people who are in the front. There's not anywhere they can go. They're being pushed from behind. The cops are pushing them from the other direction. They're being good-natured about it, but it's just a little question of impatience and of just too many people trying to get a view. In fact, when you talk about people getting a view, if you can see that space is at a premium, you see people hanging out all the windows, the people who've been fortunate enough to have office windows along this parade route. There are even people all the way up on the top, the roof of that building. And we may have found out what delayed the parade, because only a few minutes ago, Ron Darling, the pitcher of the Mets, just came sauntering down Broadway, walking. We don't know if it was that he woke up late, missed the team bus or what, But apparently, as of this moment, all the waiting is worth it, because just down the way now, it appears, if we could turn around, Howie Gow, our cameraman, it appears that the parade is finally getting underway. And so all of the pushing and shoving may finally come to cease as the people get to see what they have been waiting for all along. The parade finally underway. The crowd quite anxious, but now happy. The cheers beginning to build up. And let's see if we can get a view down at the beginning of the parade from Jane Hansen, perhaps. Jane?
David, the parade has just begun, and if you want to talk about excitement, Ron Darling came this way a little bit ago, too, and it caused a near riot. As you can see, the parade has started. Right now we have Frank Cashin, who is, of course, the manager of the Mets, looking very, well, what can you say? On a beautiful day, a parade with exuberant hundreds of thousands of people watching. It's wonderful. It's fabulous. It couldn't be nicer out here right now. Mr. Cashin, how are you feeling?
Well, Beck, glorious.
Did you ever think it was going to be this?
Yeah, I kind of hope so.
He said, yeah, I kind of hope so. What can you say after a season that the Mets had? This is Tottenville High School from out in Staten Island. There are 6 or 7 bands that are going to be marching today, many of them from high schools, of course, around the metropolitan area, along with the U.S. Army Band, which went by before we came back over here from David, and, of course, Mayor Cutts, Governor Cuomo, and Fred Wilpon were at the head of the parade. Let's take a look and enjoy the band here. A little bit down the road. That is, again, it's Tottenville High School from Staten Island. Let's take a quick go back to the studio here.
All right, Jane, thank you very much. Looks like things are getting underway, and we'll continue in just a minute.
It's time you stepped up to a Potemkin Cadillac. It really does cost less than you think. 1987 Coupe, $17,543. Sedan, $17,825. Brougham Sedan, $18,630. Cimarron, $12,972. These 1987 intro prices won't last long. Come in now and save on the luxurious 87 Potemkin Cadillac of your choice. Only $12,972 for a brand new Cadillac, only from Potemkin.
Now remember, even if he's leading, hang in there. I guarantee he'll run out before you do.
Of all the leading paper towels, only one never seems to run out. Scott Towels. It's got more sheets per roll at a real competitive price, which means when the other fellow throws in the towel, Scott Towels keeps on running and running and running. Scott Towels. They keep running without running out.
Goodbye, Tootsie. My love for you goes on and on. Goodbye, Tootsie. I'm gonna miss you, honey, when you're gone.
At the rate everybody loves the Chew Tootsie Rolls, it's a good thing they're a good buy. On average, these Tootsie Rolls cost 28% less per pound than other leading snack-sized chocolatey candies.
Goodbye, Tootsie. I'm gonna miss you, honey, when you're gone.
Hi, I'm Ed Lowe. Since I invented Cat Box Filler in 1947, I've been improving it ever since. First, I added 2 deodorants to my kitty litter brand to control both kinds of odor. It's the only cat box filler that offers you this benefit. Now I've made it 99% dust-free for less tracking and better health for your cat. You might wonder what motivates a man like me. Simple. I love cats.
99% dust-free kitty litter brand leaves others in the dust.
All right, the party has officially begun. The parade has started. Let's go to Jane Hansen down on Wall Street and catch
Hello,
up.
Pat, and guess who is coming in this car right at this moment? One of the heroes of the series, our own Gary Carter. We're going to try and grab him here and see how he's doing. Gary, how you feeling? Gary, how you feeling Did you think last April this was going to happen? Obviously a very excited Garrett Carter. Now each one of these cars is surrounded and flanked by a number of police officers. Here's Lee Mazzilli. Again, a couple of key hits from this guy. Hello, Lee. How you doing?
Hi, Jane. How you doing?
Good. How you feeling today?
It's the greatest moment of our career right here. It's fantastic.
You had a couple of great hits that made the game.
It's great to be in it.
Great to be back. Lee Mazzilli, again. As you can see, there's a lot going on down here. A lot of very happy Mets are coming by. Just take a look at their faces. When the season began last April, did you ever think it would be like this? Let's go now to... I think we're going to go to David. Okay. Let's go down to David Diaz. This is Tim Tuffle, by the way, that's coming up. David, how's the excitement there?
Oh, Jane, you can see in this picture it building up. It's just a blizzard now of the paper, confetti, ticker tape, whatever it is, a mixture, and it looks like suddenly it's winter time in the middle of this ball. You see the trucks advancing, the crowd finally beginning to see some of the parade at this point. They've been very patient for the most part. You see some of the delirious activity here. Let's just talk to these fans a second. Right here. Who are you waiting to see? Who in particular?
We love them! We love them!
Yeah! I want to see Lenny Dykstra.
Lenny Dykstra?
Yeah.
What are you going to do when you see him?
I was telling him to get a divorce.
Who are you waiting to see?
I wanted to know his summer.
They're a little bit shouted out already. They've been shouting so much before the parade even started. You begin to see, finally, the lead car. Right here, Davy Johnson with the governor and with Mayor Koch, the victorious manager, mathematician. That's the scene as it is right now. Up here, the parade well underway. I think we have Ellen Fleischer just ahead up at Maiden Lane. Ellen.
David, the Mets mania is starting here. You can see the confetti pouring down, people leaning out the windows. The parade, however, has not yet arrived. The spirit certainly has. Let's go right over here. Notice, won't you, that she is wearing a New York Rangers jacket. Why the Rangers?
Because I have a Mets jacket. We're warming up for the Stanley Cup in May. Rangers all the way. James Patrick, we love you. Hi, Jeff Allen. Come, Mom.
Hoping for the Rangers to succeed. Now, this young man cut classes today from Rutgers University. Now, is it true you've got a sociology paper due tomorrow?
I've got a paper due tomorrow. I don't care. Rutgers, I never said
What are you going to do it? What are you going to write this paper about?
It's supposed to be on social problems.
Social problems?
That's the last thing
you
on my
may have
mind
a
now.
problem with your professor.
Maybe he's watching.
But you don't care, right?
I don't care.
He probably quit. Was there anybody in the library last night at Rutgers?
No, the place was crazy. Everybody was partying in the streets. Getting drunk. There were so many people having a good time. Yeah. Nobody was studying.
What's the message today?
We're number one!
I'm Ellen Fleischer, Maiden Lane of Broadway. Let's now go back to Jane Anson.
Well, St. Benedict's band from the Bronx is just coming by. You just missed Ron Darling by seconds, who said he walked down here to come to the parade. And as I told you before, we did catch him walking down Broadway. He said he could not believe the response and the way that people were reacting. And now we are going to go. Mookie Wilson, Mookie, how you doing today? Mookie? Hi, Mookie, how you doing?
Not bad right now. Not bad at all.
When you jumped out of the way of the ball on Saturday night, did you ever think this would happen today?
I do it all the time. That's why I did it.
You did good in the series, too, man.
The other day you said you didn't like the attention. How do you feel about it now?
You did it. What are you going to do to celebrate after the parade?
Go home, get some sleep.
That is, of course, Mookie Wilson, who was, again, one of the stars of the Mets. What can you say? They were all stars during the World Series. The parade will have, well, we've had most of the pitchers come by at this point. Jesse Orozco was by a little bit ago. And again, this is the parade. What can you say? It's wonderful. Let's go back to the studio.
That's Mookie Wilson somehow, along with the other players, just managing to string together a few sentences after the celebration last night. But immediately after the game, this is what Mookie had to say last night.
In terms of service to the team, you've been here the longest. I'd like to know your thoughts tonight, now that you are part of a championship team.
Well, winning it is the big thing. After being here for so many years, and for a while not thinking that you're going to be here when the club really won a championship, and but actually to be here and to win it, there is no way you can explain it. You think about these things, you know it could happen, but until you actually experience the joy of winning a World Championship club, you don't know what to expect. And I'm just happy as I can be for the guys that I played with all year, and for myself for enduring a lot of hardships and hanging around regardless of the odds.
Great smile he has, isn't it? Just lights up everything.
And he's thinking, Jane asked him about his last at-bat in Game 6 Saturday night when he was up, 2 strikes on him, 2 outs, and a wild pitch went right by his feet. Had it hit him, the outcome might have been different, but he dodged it. And there they are, confetti raining down on them in the glorious parade, world champions. We'll have more in a minute.
Looking for a little romance? A little adventure? Exhilarating sports? Then call this number and it all comes home to you with an irresistible offer to catch the knockout ball on HBO and Cinemax at special limited time savings. Call this number and on HBO you'll see the box office winners, the big movies, the biggest stars, knockout sports, and knock 'em dead concerts. Add Cinemax and you'll add more hits, today's top movies, yesterday's classics, plus innovative series and music to rock by. Put them together and you get 2 different choices on 2 different channels for twice the entertainment, more than 200 selections every month. Don't wait a minute. Call now for 50% off installation with HBO and Cinemax. And bring home a little mystery, a little history, and 200 entertainment choices every month. Don't miss the knockout ball on HBO and Cinemax. Call now and get in on this special offer while it lasts.
To help keep fit, health experts recommend a diet with complex carbohydrates, low fat, and low cholesterol. And new improved Tasty white bread can be an important part of that diet. Tasty is rich in complex carbohydrates, very low in fat, and contains no cholesterol. And we bake Tasty bread in a whole new way. So it's not only healthy for you, it's soft, smooth, fresh, and delicious too. New improved Tasty in the bright new package. Tasty helps keep you fit.
I'm a big potato guy, so naturally I love the big potato taste of Idaho potatoes. Who doesn't? But until you dig into one, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between an Idaho potato and a potato from someplace else. That's why the Idaho people came up with this, the Grown in Idaho seal. It says you're getting the big potato taste of Idaho and nothing else. The Idaho potato seal, the Idaho potato. Clever people, these Idahoans.
Well, the blizzard of paper continues in Lower Manhattan, honoring the 1986 baseball world champions, the New York Mets. Jane Hansen is at the beginning of the parade route. Jane?
Chuck, again, we are watching the Mets parade by us. Here's Howard Johnson. Wait a bit. Let's see if we can grab him for a second. Howard, how you feeling?
Great. It's worth every minute of it.
Worth every minute of it, he says. As you can tell, there's a bit of jolting and moving around down here. Everybody's so excited. Here's a band that's from Queens, New York. Again, all these kids. The kids are thrilled. They've met the Mets, the kids who are marching in the band. It's just an unbelievable sight down here. Let's go to David.
Go, Jane. Yes. As you can see over here at this location, basically the barricades on the east side of Broadway have already broken through. The fans are already out into the street. There is now a very narrow lane for the parade to pursue. They have been moving some of the cars here through very, very quickly, particularly when Len Dykstra came through. I guess there was a little bit of concern once they saw that the barricades had fallen through, the crowd surging, that they might have rushed the car. Again, it is enthusiasm. It is well-intentioned, but this situation here could get out of hand very easily, because as one of the barricade areas breaks through, the others begin to break through, and the police have a a very, very difficult situation on their hands here, trying to keep this enthusiasm within bounds and trying to keep Broadway clear for the parade to take place. As you can see now, the barricade gone on this side for more than certainly 10 feet. That's the situation here as it stands. Ellen, what does it look like up by Maiden Lane? Are things calmer over there?
Well, up where I am, Dwight Gooden has just gone by with his wife. Ray Knight preceded him with his lovely wife Nancy Lopez seated beside him. The crowd chanting MVP, MVP. Right now, Jesse Orozco, the fabulous pitcher. Jesse acknowledging the crowd. Our police officer pushing us aside right now. Just the shot of Gabe Pressman going by right there. Curtis High School from Staten Island, one of the many marching bands performed today. You've already seen Tottenville. And while all this is going on, let's go back to Ray Velasquez here. Ray, do you have any ideas about that sociology paper?
I've been thinking maybe I should do something on the depression that the people of Boston are having right now.
The depression in Boston. Very good idea, Ray. Think a little more. Let's now join Al Roker a little bit uptown from us.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ellen. It is, as you can see, we're looking south on Broadway. The parade is starting to come up this way. The crowd is really starting to get excited now. You can see the ticker tape coming down, and it is just really, the crowd is starting to get all kind of hyped up here. Who do you want to see? Who did you come down to see? How'd you get, what? Okay, as you can see, it is getting really exciting here. So we are going to now go to Tony Guida, who's over by City Hall, where I guess the excitement really has to be building.
Hello, Al. On top of the platform here at City Hall once again, the crowd is getting a little bit impatient because they've been waiting a long time, but just a few moments ago, the first car passed City Hall going up Broadway towards the back of City Hall and around by the Tweed Courthouse, and a great roar went up from this crowd. I saw Gabe Pressman going through the crowd before. I'm wondering, going through the parade route before. What position does he play? Is he a reserve shortstop? City Hall is decorated, as you might expect, in blue and orange, and over the west wing of City Hall is flying the Mets 1969 World Series flag. Over the east wing of City Hall is flying their 1973 National League pennant flag. And over the center, the entrance, is the flag that was the subject of some contention this year as Mayor Koch made bets with Mayor Kathy Whitmire of Houston and Ray Flynn of Boston. It's a flag that says, "I love the New York Mets, don't tread on us." And that flag flew for one day in Houston as part of the bet that the Houston Astros lost for their city. So it flew one day in Houston. I'm not sure if it flew in Boston, but it was supposed to. It's now hanging over City Hall, and of course, one day I expect in the not-too-distant future, the 1986 World Series flag will be hanging here. There is a gathering crowd even larger than it was before. They're very anxious, anticipatory, and hoping to get a good close look at some of their heroes from this summer, the boys of this summer who have brought a flag home to New York for the first time in 17 years. This is Tony Guida at City Hall. Where are we going? Back to the studio?
Okay, thank you, Tony. We have Len Berman sitting right here. Len, who
I know, we have an expert sitting by our side. I think we should ask for his service.
It's a terrific idea. He's been watching the parade. He watched all the series, all the playoffs, and has an awful lot to say about that.
I just get a kick out of watching you guys like Orozco and Mazzilli. You know, Mazzilli's saying the highlight of my career. I mean, here's a fellow who started the year in Pittsburgh in dead last place, agreed to come with the Mets and go in the minor leagues, and then and winds up in the World Series, wins the championship from Brooklyn. He says the highlight of his career, and that's really an understatement. But talk about Ray Knight, the MVP of the World Series, because there's another remarkable story, and what a supreme irony that Ray turned out to be the series MVP, because he very nearly got released in spring training. In fact, the Mets tried to trade him. Nobody wanted him. Then he was very nearly the GOAT of the series, and through it all, he persevered. Now, if we can take a look at the tape, this was the play that very nearly haunted Knight for life. It was his error in Game 6 that opened the gates for the Red Sox.
When they scored, it was like my heart went to my feet. You know, like, boy, if we lose this thing because of me, the worst feeling in the world. There's no, I mean, it's worse than anything maybe other than death. And then I said a prayer. Baseball is a game of redeeming features, and I said a little prayer. Just give me a chance to do something to get us back in this game.
And Ray loves to use that phrase, a game of redeeming features. So later in Saturday night's miracle comeback, one strike from defeat, and it was Knight. He had the hit that scored Gary Carter to bring them within a run. And then, after a wild pitch, Mookie Wilson's ground ball that got through Buckner's legs at first, and it was Ray Knight who scored the winning run. And Sal Marciano talked with Ray's tearful wife.
Nancy Lopez Knight, his wife, you're full of tears.
I'm just so happy for Ray. He's kept me on my edge of my seat for so long, and I'm so proud of him.
You know, I know that there's a lot of people that aren't Ray Knight fans and everything, but they don't know me, and if they knew me, they would be. So I just give it everything I have, and I always will.
And then last night, the shot heard round the city. Ray Knight's tie-breaking home run off the former Met Calvin Schiraldi in the 7th. A joyful trip around the bases, while Shea Stadium and the entire tri-state area basically went nuts.
Just reflecting on these guys and how, although we had a tremendous year and we won so many games and everybody said, well, they haven't been tested, I knew that we just had tremendous heart and willingness to win. And I'll just reflect on that, just my involvement and with these guys and just the camaraderie and the closeness, genuine closeness that this ball club has.
The final World Series numbers on Knight, he batted .391 with a home run and 5 RBIs. Not bad for a guy almost given his walking papers in March. Now he gets to drive away with the MVP car in October.
Not bad at all. You know, you took me back to Saturday night, Len, and I took my 9-year-old and 19-year-old to the game Saturday night. Saturday night's game was the game of this series, I think. That miraculous turnaround to sit there and see that incredible 10th inning, bottom of the 10th recovery. And this is what they get, this parade here. That's what makes baseball so fantastic. You know, the old saw about it's not over till it's over. Never truer than this time, eh?
Yeah, and Jesse Orozco. He was considered at times a good relief pitcher, at times not. How about this guy? Lenny Dykstra with his wife. Remember the shot of her during the playoffs? And Dykstra with the big playoff home run. They credit his home run leading off Game 3 in Boston with the shot that really got the Mets back in the playoffs. They were down 2-0. Then the little guy, Dykstra, got them going, and he'll be a big guy. And just, you know, if you could talk about financial rewards for a moment, I mean, each winning share for a World Series player will be between $75,000 and $80,000. But more than that, think what it will do for the career of a fellow like Lenny Dykstra. Might not have been a huge salary player, and what it will do to set him financially for the rest of his life. So yes, there's a lot of emotional importance here, and a lot of getting the ring on the finger, and a lot of what it means in those regards, but what it could mean to set you and your family financially for these young men, it's a big story as well.
Since you mentioned it, there is some consolation for the Red Sox because they too profited from their trip to the World Series.
Oh, sure. The losing share could be $55,000 to $60,000, but I was a sportscaster in Boston for 5 years, and you know, it was talked about how they haven't won a World Series since Babe Ruth in 1918.
Yeah.
But think what's happened since 1918. They've been in 4 World Series. All 4 win 7 games. They lost all 4. In addition to that, they were in the only 2 one-game playoffs in American League history in 1948 and 78. They lost both of those. So my dear friends in Wellesley and Natick and Waltham and Lexington and Concord and all those places, today is just a dreadful day in their lives, and it's really a counterpoint to these marvelous scenes, how we are all exhilarated by that. Well, you worked in Boston.
I did, yeah, and there is sort of a Boston curse when it comes to baseball. You know, that I guess they're sort of inured to it up there.
Yeah.
We'll have more for you in a minute.
Your love the first bite, outrageously right. New kudos, granola snacks. Pleasing, teasing, kudos, I'm yours. I'm yours. Nutty fudge, chocolate chip, or peanut butter. Kudos, you won me over any other. Electrifying, granolifying. Kudos, I'm yours. I'm yours. Smart and temptation in every bite. Kudos, you make me feel so right. Simply nutritious, outrageously delicious. Kudos, I'm yours. I'm yours. Kudos, I'm yours. I'm yours.
The beat goes on.
The first health club chain with swimming pools and whirlpools,
Goes on.
aerobics and free weights. Nautilus. Life Cycles. And now, #1 in America.
The beat goes on.
Put your body first at Jack LaLanne Fitness Center and get 2 years for 1.
When it comes to fitness, we don't promise. We deliver.
Shop King Cullen, Long Island's own.
When I shop for fresh fruits and vegetables, I shop Long Island's own, King Cullen. Why not make King Cullen your own?
And save on Marcal towels, jumbo roll 39 cents. Coca-Cola 2-liter bottle 89 cents. High C fruit drinks 46-ounce can 69 cents. And King Cullen 100% pure orange juice half-gallon carton 99 cents. And shop King Cullen, Long Island's own.
You know, Len mentioned earlier how, beside the emotional gratification of winning the World Series, how so many of these young men are really going to be set up financially, their families, etc. And I was thinking about age, like Gooden. I think he's 21 years old. 22 years old. Darryl Strawberry, 24.
Yeah.
I think the oldest man around is who, Len? Dwight?
Knight's a senior
Knight,
citizen.
Ray Knight.
Knight's a senior citizen of the
right.
team.
Yeah. 34, 35 years
Young
old.
30s, yeah.
You learn something every day, though. I just discovered why you had that little tweak in the heart about because you lived in Boston for a while too. You have some Boston roots.
We all do up here, don't we?
Speaking of roots, let's go back to the parade route. It's almost leaving right now. Almost over, close but no cigar. I know. Anyway, like the Boston Red Sox. Anyway, the tail end of the parade is now leaving Battery Park, and Al Roker is up at Park Place, where I guess the thick of it's still going by right now, Al.
Right now, we've got the St. Benedict's marching band from the Bronx go by. We've had Gary Carter, we've had Tim Tuffle. The crowd went crazy, and now they're getting a little bit of a breather. We had some folks, unfortunately, knock down some barricades because obviously they all wanted to see their Mets stars, and of course the barricades came down. But right now, as you can see, the St. Benedict's marching band coming down. There's obviously a lot more of this parade. We've got some semi-trucks coming in here loaded with people. Look like some folks from the Mets, from the back offices and such, and it's just looking wonderful. We're going to go back inside now until we get some more folks out of here.
We have something here about that.
What are you looking for, Patricia?
I'm looking on ages, because we're talking about the youngest and the oldest on the Mets team.
You want to get specific about that? Okay, we'll nail them.
Here we have oldest Met, born in November, Ray Knight, 34 years old.
Mm-hmm.
December.
Birthday in December.
That's old. Well,
the parade continues, and we keep looking at it here, and it's a delightful sight to see.
It really is, and you see the shots of Gary Carter. Ray Knight won the MVP award up until that home run. And Gary Carter was involved in all the key moments in the
series.
Looks to me
like the barricades have gone completely right there from that overhead shot. Man, just a sea of people down in the canyons of Wall Street.
Looked like Bob Ojeda, didn't it?
Yeah. There's a guy who was a happy man last night. Do you remember the tape with Ojeda in his goggles and getting sprayed with champagne and beer?
And of course, a former Red Sox pitcher. And
that could be a very dangerous situation, guys.
Yeah, fortunately, everybody, I think, is fairly good-natured about this.
Of course, this scene, too, Chuck, could be after the parade has passed this area.
I think it is, and the barricades have gone. The people are flooding down there, and it's just one big festive occasion. It's always a stunning sight to see these ticker tape parades, and I'd be curious about the police estimate of the crowd.
Yeah, here's Gary Carter, and as I was mentioning, he had a very good shot at winning the most valuable player award. I thought that's our sports producer, Dave Katz, getting some camera time. And if we want to take a look at some of Gary Carter's heroics from the World Series, because if it wasn't Ray Knight, it was going to be this man. Remember Game 4? Hit the 2-run homer that put the Mets on top 2-0. You forget how many times they came back in this World Series. They were down 2-0, and then this second home run, which cleared the wall and the screen, went out into Lansdowne Street. That made it 6-0, a second home run of Game 4. Then in Game 6, the critical game, he had a sacrifice fly that tied it in the 8th inning. That was before all the later heroics. Mazzilli had scored it. And then base hit. Then he started the key rally in that 10th inning. Remember, 2 outs? He was the first batter up. After there were 2 gone, he got the key hit there. And then last night when he blooped it to right field and Evans couldn't hang on, and that became the tying run at that time. Then some poignant moments with some hugs with some teammates. That was after the tying run. At the end of the game, Gary Carter. There he was with equipment manager Charlie Samuels and with some of his teammates. And some thoughts from easily most articulate of the Mets. He loves that camera time. Let's hear from Gary.
We were just not to be denied. We had the momentum going for us, even though they jumped off to a big lead early and scored 3 runs. We still felt that we had the great chance, and we did, and we didn't give up, and we just kept it going.
This winter, what will you think about the most, do you think?
Oh, geez. I guess the fact that, you know, we had the great season with 108 victories, but then with the tough series, we beat Houston with only a 189 batting average as a team, and then from there, we went on and beat, you know, the Red Sox after being down 2-0 and losing the first 2 games here at home. And I'll just go back and replay these games over and over again, but it'll be a great feeling because the result is we end up being the world champions.
And look at that shot. And the final numbers on him in the World Series, he batted .276. He had 2 home runs, led the team with 9 RBIs, and of course defensively, he was the catcher. So he had a lot to do offensively and defensively. And our sports partner, Sal Marciano, standing by. Let's send it out to Sal live now.
Okay, Len, here we are behind City Hall. Here's Lee Mazzilli. What was it like coming up the Canyon of Champions?
I'll tell you what, it was one of the greatest days of my life. The ticker tape parade in New York City is something you'll never, ever forget. It was outstanding.
And now you're going to go to the dais and you're going to get the awards from the mayor and from the governor of New York. Lee, did you get snowed under by all the confetti?
That's all right. We'll just take another shower.
Okay.
Thanks, son.
Lee Mazzilli, one of the Mets heroes. Gary Carter has already passed, and Ray Knight has come by. Ron Darling! Ron Darling! Hey, Ron! Ron Darling! And he is snowed under by police as they head toward the front steps of City Hall. There will be quite a ceremony. We have taken a look at the mayor's speech. About a half-dozen Mets will speak, in addition to politicians. Back here on the back end of City Hall, there are lots of police. This area is cordoned off. More Mets are coming our way, so if we can just hold this position for about a minute or 2, we'll be able to bring you some more Mets. Let's look down the path, and I think I see Mookie Wilson in a gray suit making his way, and we certainly want to get his reactions. You know, in terms of point of service, Mookie Wilson's been with this Mets team longer than anyone else on the roster. And, of course, at the end of Game 6, it was Mookie Wilson in that tremendous at-bat in the last of the 10th inning, fighting off Bob Stanley, who threw a wild pitch, enabling Kevin Mitchell to score to tie the game at 5-5. And then it was Mookie who hit the bouncer to first base that went between the legs of Bill Buckner, allowing the Mets to win 6-5 as Ray Knight scored. Mookie Wilson heading this way right now. Of course, he's got to be very happy. Mookie! Right here, babe. Come here. He's got to go. So there you go. That was one Met that got away. And, of course, more Mets are coming their way, too. And maybe we can get someone else. Here comes Keith Hernandez. I want to tell you a little secret. I was with Keith Hernandez till 3 o'clock in the morning. Keith!
Thanks, Keith. You're a big guy.
Yes, Al. Keith, you were able to survive last night and this morning.
This is great here. This is the greatest parade I've ever been.
What's it like to come up the Canyon of Champions, as they call it?
Well, it's only one place to win, and that's New York, and it's the greatest. It's a great experience for me, Sal. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, good.
It's not over with yet.
Not over.
Okay.
Congratulations. All right, there goes Keith. So at any rate, we have more coverage coming your way. I think right now there aren't any Mets coming this way, so let's throw it back to the studio.
That's terrific. Keith Hernandez is inclined to do a Gillette commercial.
And you have to remember, he won the championship in '82 with the St. Louis Cardinals, and now he wins with the New York Mets in '86. And in many ways, he is symbolic of the Mets. They're certainly their team leader. The players all look up to him and respect him. Now, it's been well publicized, the drug problems and the admissions he made in a Pittsburgh courtroom over his drug use, and he really hasn't talked about those issues. Remember in spring training, he was penalized by the commissioner, a portion of a salary, community service, etc. Doesn't like to talk to those issues, was voted to the All-Star game, didn't want to talk about how the fans, even though he had problems, voted him in. And then we do have an interview, which we'll get to later perhaps in the news, where I believe the words he said to Sal Marciano was that he felt he was paroled. So we are going to take a look at a couple of the Keith Hernandez highlights from the World Series. He was involved in a couple of critical plays. Not all of them were great. Remember this play in Game 2? Keith, one of the best first basemen in the history of the game. Remember, he threw the ball away and helped the Red Sox to that 2-0 lead. But offensively, he was in the middle of things. Perhaps the biggest hit last night. The team was down 3-0. He was the one with the 2-run single that brought them back in the 6th inning that made it 3-2. And we do have some comments of Keith Hernandez talking with Sal last night as well.
It's the greatest moment in my professional career. There will be nothing that will ever come close to this in my life. It was something I'll treasure the rest of my life. This is the greatest feeling. Geez.
And for you personally, coming back from what occurred last March to this moment in October, for you personally, it has to be a tremendous odyssey.
Well, I don't know. It doesn't feel like a tremendous odyssey. You know, things have been gone well in my life the last 3 years, but good things happen to good people. I've overcame, and this to me is like parole. How's that sound? That's tough. You like that?
Well, he knew the media wanted to hear him relate somehow to that, and Keith Hernandez has known both sides of exhilaration and depression, and drug problems and family problems as well.
I thought Sal Marciano did a terrific job last night under very trying circumstances in the Mets locker room.
They are tough. And I haven't realized that Sal's the veteran of locker room celebrations, as Marv said. He was in there in '69, but when I was in Houston in the clinching, the thing I didn't really realize is the champagne stings your eyes. So as soon as someone pours something on you for a second, it's like mace. You're like blind, and then to try to articulately ask questions.
He did beautifully. I
really
had a big kick out of watching him last night.
Yeah, he was getting champagne and beer cocktails combined to manage to weather that pretty well. A well-deserved celebration.
And the party went on, I understand, till quite late.
Yeah, it's amazing. They're managing to walk somehow to City Hall right now after all that partying last night. Tony Guide is standing by there. Tony?
All right, Chuck, here at City Hall. Chuck, here at City Hall, the crowd is on its feet because the Mets have gone into the Blue Room, which is the same room in City Hall where the mayor holds all his news conferences, and there's a reception going on there. And Ron Darling, at the moment, if you can take that other shot, Ron Darling is sitting on the windowsill and waving to the crowd and signing some autographs on the window, at the window of City Hall, and there's some other Mets in there. On the other side of City Hall, which we can't show you right now, the police are having a tough time holding back the crowd at the barricades. They are surging forward. A couple of people appear to have been injured. One man has been lying on the ground for quite some time, and I wonder if he's had a heart attack or has just fainted. So there is a bit of trouble on this side of City Hall. And while we have a minute before this ceremony starts, let me paint an interesting contrast between the two men who will sort of lead the ceremony, Mayor Koch and Governor Cuomo. The mayor, who knows absolutely nothing about baseball and will freely and happily admit it whenever you ask him, doesn't know an RBI from a pothole, says that he's the kind of kid who was always chosen last in a Sandlot game, and that would have been the right thing. And Governor Cuomo, who had his baseball career gone somewhat differently, might not be here at all today. Governor Cuomo signed in 1951 with the Pittsburgh Pirates with a minor league team for $2,000 and was paid $160 a month. And in 1952 was playing in Brunswick, Georgia, Class D baseball for the Brunswick, Georgia Pirates. And I got his statistics earlier today. He played in 81 games, Governor Cuomo did. He, let me see that shot. Can we get that shot, John? John, can we get that shot of people at the city? Okay, we're trying to look at those people at the window of City Hall. I was talking about Governor Cuomo's statistics when he was in Class D minor league ball. He batted .244. He drove in 26 runs. He struck out 55 times. He had 62 hits. He had 10 doubles. He had 2 triples. He had 1 homer. And He only lasted 1 year because an injury. He got beamed at the plate and was hospitalized, actually, and that ended his baseball career. So Mario Cuomo might have been a Met or a Pittsburgh Pirate player. Instead, his baseball career was short-lived, and he's the governor of New York and getting ready to partake in this ceremony today. And the mayor of the city of New York, who knows nothing about baseball and I think could care less, except for the excitement and the happiness it brings to the city, of course, will be leading the ceremony. Gabe Pressman is here with me, but we have a very little space on this platform. Can you get in here, Gabe?
Yeah, I just walked up the length of the parade, and I saw those two ball players that you were talking about. They were each holding a number one figure. It was a finger up for number one, and
somebody probably had to teach Ed Koch to do that.
It was a politician's dream. This has been a bad year for Ed Koch, and the governor is running for re-election, as everybody knows. There couldn't have been a more opportune parade, and they were leading the crowd in cheers and applauding, and Gary Carter, who was in another car, was really doing his number, just as he does behind the plate, leading the crowd, surge after surge of cheers as he passed. The crowd control problem you talked about was evident everywhere, especially just about 3 blocks south of City Hall, where police really had to push and pummel. One lady was hurt, I think, by a piece of falling paper. They took her away. Her hand was bleeding. It was a very enthusiastic parade all the way up. Down at Bowling Green, the trees were coated with reams of computer printouts. It looked like an early snowfall.
You mentioned the opportune nature of this parade for the politicians, and I think we both recall, don't we, that in 1969, the Mets' victory helped John Lindsay get elected that year.
Absolutely, and he didn't. He had 2 days of celebrations, as I recall. He certainly had a celebration in Queens, which had gone badly for him because of that snowstorm that he didn't clean up in time. And he had another one at City Hall in a parade, and he was just absolutely delirious. But, you know, in the history of New York, probably the MacArthur Parade, which was around 1951 or 2 or whenever it was in the early 50s, was the biggest and most enthusiastic. And some police commissioner was trying to make brownie points with I don't know who, said that there were 7.5 million people along the line of march. And an engineer figured out that that was impossible. Even if you put 10 rows of people on each other's shoulders along Broadway, you couldn't have fit 7.5 million. Those were the days of the inflated crowd estimates.
Well, I think they're still around, but it'd be hard to inflate the numbers of this crowd. And I want to interject here quickly before the ceremony starts. Something never heard before or seen before on television in New York City. This is an exclusive, ladies and gentlemen. Also learned about Mario Cuomo's baseball career today. He liked to go under the names, actually 2 names, aliases or pseudonyms or nom de plumes or whatever you want to call them, and he still uses them now and then, and they are Glendy LeDuc and Lava Libretti. So his aides tell me, Governor Cuomo's aides tell me, that sometimes they'll get a call in their office or someplace out in the field, and they'll say, who is it calling? And the message will be, well, it was Glendy LeDuc, and they've come to know that Mario Cuomo likes to refer to himself in with some nicknames that have some roots in his baseball career. I'm not quite sure. We weren't able to establish exactly what those roots are, but they do come out of those years when Mario Cuomo was a center fielder for St. John's, and then later for the Pittsburgh Pirates for 1 year for the minor league organization. And so if you ever hear of Glendy LeDuc or Lava Libretti, you know that we're talking about Mario Cuomo, who to this day loves baseball.
I think his blood was surging today, Tony. Everything I saw indicated that he was not only a politician today, but he felt like a ball player again. At least that was what I projected in the way he behaved. The mayor seemed a little more shy than usual. He was doing his number, but Cuomo had greater gusto. Maybe Cuomo, the ball player, was speaking too.
You know, you've shook hands with the governor many times, and so have I. He's got those big, meaty hands that a baseball player needs to have. You often hear pitchers talking about big hands and how they can throw certain pitches because they have long fingers and big hands. Cuomo has those meat hooks on the end of his arms that I imagine would have made him a great hitter, helped make him a great hitter if he had fast wrists. We are looking, if you can see the shot, we are looking at a line of police here at the back of the City Hall Plaza trying their best to hold back this crowd that is surging forward from the City Hall Park as it stretches back out onto Park Row. There are so many people jammed in here, of course, that it's just, you know, it's shoulder to shoulder. And the police are doing their best to hold that barricade, and they need reinforcements every so often. I don't know if you were able to see that. It's very hard to tell what you are able to see on the screen here, because it's hard for us to know what shots you can see. But I can tell you it's a line of police that must number 15 or 20 who are shoulder to shoulder. Their heels dug into the cement here, pushing back against a crowd that is surging forward as the platform at the front of City Hall and the steps fill up now with the dignitaries. I imagine most of the city council people will be here, and the members of the Board of Estimate.
By the way, Tony, a lot of the also-rans, the mayor and the governor, of course, had their own open car with Davy Johnson. But I noticed Harrison Golden and probably a few of the councilmen were on a fire truck way back in the parade. But that's the pecking order of politics. And I don't think the crowd was too interested in any of the politicians. They were very interested in the ball players. And each ball player went in an individual convertible with his name on the side in case anyone doubted it. But none of the real baseball fans had to have a diagram to know who they were looking at.
It's a curious marriage, I think, between politics and baseball. You know that anytime you go to a stadium, at least in this city, and Ed Koch shows up, or any other mayor. I don't know about going back to LaGuardia. I don't know if he ever went to baseball games with the Yankees, or the Giants or the Dodgers. But they get roundly booed whenever they show up at Shea or Yankee Stadium. I suspect that happened at the Polo Grounds in Ebbets Field. And here the politicians are taking over this day from the ball players, or trying to.
There was one guy who was never booed, and that was James Aloysius Farley, who was the Postmaster General, the mastermind of FDR's campaigns. And in his golden years when he worked for Coca-Cola for 25 or 30 years and lived at the Waldorf, he used to go to the ball game at Yankee Stadium quite frequently in the summer. A very majestic figure with his straw hat, and he was a very popular guy. But to him, baseball was like politics. He was fascinated by the strategy, the managers, the relief pitchers, all the aspects, the batting averages, the many considerations of strategy that went into baseball. And I think there is a symbiotic relationship between politicians who really know about baseball and their own craft, politics.
Gabe, you've covered many a parade, walked up that canyon many a time. How does this parade compare with some of the others you've seen?
Oh, it's one of the biggest. There's no question about it. I don't know, the amount of paper, but we were pretty deep in paper at 11 o'clock down in the lower Broadway area, and it's hard to compare it to the 69 Mets thing. I think there was as much enthusiasm then as I recall it. As I say, that MacArthur parade, I was a cub reporter at City Hall for the World Telegram. I don't remember too much about it because I wasn't in the parade itself, but I know that it was madness here. And there was similar madness for Eisenhower. And reading the history book, I guess Lindbergh and Gertrude Ederle did pretty well, too.
Yeah, I had a list earlier that the sanitation department put out rating these parades in terms of trash tonnage. Right. And I don't know, I've lost it at this point, but I think the one you were talking about with MacArthur, I think that may have been the biggest at 5,400 some odd tons. And, of course, they're going to be counting this up.
You know that one of the earliest was for Teddy Roosevelt, but I wasn't here. And if you really
there are those who would doubt you.
And if you really go back, I was reading that Lafayette, Washington's companion, the great Frenchman who helped America in the Revolution, they gave him a parade, and that was about 1825. So Broadway parades are not new. The ticker tape thing, I think, was a Grover Whalen. He was police commissioner and city greeter in the 1920s. He worked for Jimmy Walker, and he went right into the 40s and 50s. Grover Whalen, I think, originated the ticker tape thing right after World War I.
And getting back to this particular parade, 1986 Mets World's Champion. The last time this happened for a baseball team, of course, was the Mets in 1969. Or did the Yankees have one in there? I've forgotten now. But at least from what you were saying before, if you want to get elected mayor or re-elected governor, it's a good idea to have the Mets or Yankees win a World Series.
According to the polls, Cuomo didn't need it, but every little bit helps, and so it shouldn't be a total loss. He was very happy to have this World Series victory for the Mets.
Gabe, it's good to talk with you. They want us to go back up to the studio. The ceremony is going to begin momentarily, and we'll be coming back here. Let's go back to the studio right now.
We got tons of information out of that. Oh, lava?
Yeah, those guys are fun to listen to. They were talking about the political fallout. I mean, obviously, as they mentioned toward the end of their discussion down there, Tony and Gabe, 1 week from today, voters go to the polls in New York, and they're going to choose the next governor of New York. Now, as they said, Governor Cuomo was well out ahead of his Republican rival, Andrew O'Rourke, in the polls. This, with this exposure and this ticker tape parade, has to be nothing but a benefit for the incumbent.
Well, he has got such a large lead that all this might do is just glamorize his position a little bit.
Certainly gives him some exposure. There was a cute article in the Daily News this morning by Wayne Coffey called Met Achievement Awards. And as long as we're sitting here stalling and waiting for the ceremony to get underway, let me just read these. Pat, we'll both go through this a little bit here, but Coffey says that these are some of the achievement awards from the season of the Mets. The winners laugh, the losers hold cockroach races award. And this award goes to Cooters, the Houston Park, the 4 Mets made famous. You remember that?
I like this one.
The Sunday after
the worst first pitch of postseason.
Yeah,
Game 1,
pitch.
the Vice President, George Bush, it bounced.
It bounced, first pitch of the game. But you recall the Cooters thing, the Sunday after the Astros lost the playoffs. Roach races were held in them, and that was the main event of Cooters, the Roach races. That's where that came from. Most valuable singers of the series?
Who's that?
For the next World Series, the National Anthem assignment, give these folks an encore, according to Coffey, in the Daily News. Smokey Robinson, I thought he did a terrific job. Wasn't that fabulous?
Matter of fact, we commented on that that night.
And Paul Simon and Billy Joel. Now, Coffey says, send back to the minors Glenn Close, Natalie Cole, Sandra Santiago, Kenneth Mack Jr. Tough guy, this Coffey. Our Boy Bill Memorial Trophy, according to Coffey. As we look at the clean sweep in New York. This is what we call it, World Series sweep. To Bill Buckner, 6th inning of the 6th game, Boston first baseman faked making an error on the pickoff throw. Remember that, Len? Oh, that was too cute.
Wally Backman was involved now.
Yeah, Wally had him going, though. I mean, Wally knew what was happening.
False start.
This is really a fascinating picture. Good, we changed it.
Of course, Buckner came back and made a real error in Game 7. In Game 6, and Game 7 possible.
Right.
How about this one? Most sexist line by a Mets opponent, Pat.
I don't have my glasses on, Chuck. You read it.
Okay.
I don't read sexist lines.
After Houston won the NL Western Division, flaky relief pitcher Charlie Kerfeld said, quote, some stewardesses will pay for this.
That's a sexist line.
That? Sexist line, yeah. Coffey's right on that one.
Get me on that TV. $20, man.
Here's a mean award. Coffey's dishing out this one. Take your World Series share and buy a new glove. Tim Tuffle and Kevin Elster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well earned, is that right?
Well, no. I mean,
Tuffle cost us a
each
game.
made an error, and Tuffle did cause an error in the first game. That was the only caused the only run of that first game. He later made an error that did not count officially as one. But he was the one who did get some key hits off of Bruce Hurst. So Davey Johnson stayed with him. There have been other managers and other owners in other World Series. Charlie Finley comes to mind with Mike Andrews, where a second baseman made an error in the 1973 World Series and fired him on the spot. And then there was a big to-do, and the commissioner had to reinstate the player. But Davey Johnson stood by his players, even when he got into the to-do with Darryl Strawberry.
In Game 6, well, he pulled him out of Game 6.
Pulled him out of Game 6. I don't know if we want to go to the tape of Strawberry or not, but he was pulled by Davey Johnson, was upset afterwards in the locker room. In fact, when he hit the home run, he was met by Ray Knight at the plate. I don't know if you saw the scene when he hit the home run last night. Ray Knight talked to him for several seconds as he crossed home plate before he got to the dugout. And we later found out he said to him, be a man. Go over and shake the guy's hand. You know, be a man about it. And
you know, there was what maybe I'm reading too much into it, but there was a bit of a telling interview with Davey Johnson prior to Game 7. He was talking about Darryl Strawberry's being miffed over having been pulled out of Game 6, and he said, well, Darryl was thinking like a player, not like a manager. You got to think like a manager, and if he goes a few more years in the major leagues, he may begin to think like a manager. Thought that if was a little bit telling. Do you think that Strawberry's job isn't something?
No, I don't think so. Darryl is a very interesting character on this team. He always seems, he's like a lightning rod. He's involved in great plays, involved in bad plays, he's involved in fan reaction. We have the Darryl Strawberry tape that we'll be going to, and the first bit on the tape is when the fans were taunting and yelling, Darryl. I thought he handled this very well. Tipped his cap rather than being angry about it. And of course, finally, he had broken a long slump at Shea Stadium with a home run that, well, it gave them a 7-5 lead at the time. This had to be the slowest trip around the bases in World Series history. He was going to savor this moment.
You know, there was a lot of talk about his striking out so many times in postseason play, but, you know, he delivered a very important 3-run homer in the playoffs.
And, of course, he delivered a couple of homers in the playoffs. And you'll see him with Ray Knight at home plate. And afterwards, Sal Marciano talked with him about the strained relationship with Davey Johnson over being pulled out of the game.
You hit your home run and you towed home plate. Could you say publicly what Ray Knight said to you?
Well, yeah, I can tell you. He told me just go ahead and be a man about it and shake Davey's hand. And that's something he really insisted that I do because he wanted me to do it. And, you know, when I was coming around the bases, I thought about it. He is the manager, and you do have to respect him. And, you know, like I said, it's just something that happened. I'm really not the type of person that go out and say the things that I said about the manager because I do have to perform for him. And he makes the calls, and I just have to live with it. And sometimes it's hard to live with it when you're in the World Series.
Darryl is young. The only minor disappointment to me was that after he was pulled out of the game, he went back into the clubhouse and dressed in his street clothes. He didn't stay on the bench with the team. Now, several players do go back and forth, and usually they stay in uniform. Keith Hernandez was quoted as saying he went and smoked a cigarette when he thought it was over. Oh, that's right, he had a beer. Sat in Davey Johnson's chair. Was that the line?
That was it.
But Darryl dressed in street clothes. But we saw that marvelous shot last night on the 6 o'clock sports when Mookie Wilson went running up the runway. Darryl came running out saying miracles do happen. But Pat mentioned she thought maybe Darryl doesn't look like he's running that fast after the balls at times. There are certain athletes sometimes, and because of his frame, this isn't an alibi.
It's an ambling frame, is what you're
Yeah, it really is.
me.
Now, yeah, he should have reached down and gotten that ball at Fenway. Remember when Dykstra fell
Exactly, that's what I was referring to.
Well, what about that home run that went over the wall, the second home run last night? I mean, it did look like he sort of ambled over there and could have had a little more time had he hustled and timed his jump a little better, maybe caught that.
He thought he had it. It was right in the glove.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the amble might have hurt him there because if you looked at the replay, the ball was right in his glove. And so I'm not sure of that one. You know, the fans voted him #1 for the All-Star balloting. His name has something to do with it. It's a colorful name, and he is certainly a guy who is always in the midst of what's going on. But no, I don't think his job is in jeopardy. He has one of the sweetest strokes around for a baseball player. Again, with that easy flow, that amble, he just kind of just swoops at it, and he delivers home runs. That was a very important home run right there.
It certainly was. I was going to say last night, it came at a very important moment.
Yeah.
I mean, we were still ahead. But
maybe his problem is that he just makes it look too easy. He's so good, he makes it look so easy that it doesn't look like he's putting
There are athletes like that who it looks as if they're not putting out the full effort. But Darryl's an important member of what happened. Those home runs he hit in the playoffs and the home run last night. So despite the strike, hey, listen, I'm not at all putting him in a Hall of Fame category, but Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth and Reggie Jackson led the world in strikeouts. So you take the strikeouts sometimes. What teams desperately need as management is a guy who can deliver with one stroke that power. And you can't underestimate how much that home run meant. So you take the strikeouts if you can get something like that if you're running a baseball team.
Absolutely. We'll have more for you in just a minute.
Looking for a little romance? A little adventure? Exhilarating sports? Then call this number and it all comes home to you with an irresistible offer to catch the knockout fall on HBO and Cinemax at special limited time savings. Call this number and on HBO you'll see the box office winners, the big movies, the biggest stars, knockout sports, and knock 'em dead concerts. Add Cinemax and you'll add more hits, today's top movies, yesterday's classics, plus innovative series and music to rock by. Put them together and you get 2 different choices on 2 different channels for twice the entertainment. More than 200 selections every month. Don't wait a minute. Call now for 50% off installation with HBO and Cinemax. And bring home a little mystery, a little history, and 200 entertainment choices every month. Don't miss the knockout fall on HBO and Cinemax. Call now and get in on this special offer while it lasts.
They asked me to do this commercial because my name is Jones. They also want me to tell you that there's 60% less fat and 45% fewer calories. I want you to remember the name Jones. Jones.
You probably don't think a coach can tell you much about these, but there are a few things that you should know about sausage. Find one that's all natural, find one with great taste, and find one named Jones.
Jones Light Sausage.
Well, we just thought we'd give you just a second to catch your breath there. A little bit of peace and quiet as this parade continues. Actually, it's wrapping up. The parade is
Yeah,
pretty
actually,
much
we're sort of
City Hall.
sitting in anticipation of the ceremonies at City Hall, which gives us a chance to look at some of last night's events and talk to the experts. And
Speaking of last night's events, did you get much sleep last night, Patricia? Was there a lot of
I
racket
don't think
in your
anybody in
neighborhood?
New York did. You know, these tall New York buildings create a cavernous sound anyway. On normal nights, I'm on the 11th floor.
Yeah.
I can hear people speaking loudly. Look at this.
Daryl's getting it again. This time with a little more affection.
A little differently this time.
You know,
no, the noise was tremendous last night all over Manhattan.
You know, Pat, it's interesting how a World Series, a winning baseball team can unify a city. I was strolling down a couple of days ago, strolling down Park Avenue on my way into work. And there was a very elegant lady, blonde, mid-30s, very elegantly dressed, who was in a heated argument with a laborer who was working on Park Avenue. And they were talking about what the best team was, and the laborer was insisting it was Boston, and she was insisting it was the New York Mets, and they kept bantering back and forth. And he said, "Look, lady, I got a lot of class. I'm telling you, it's Boston." And she said, "Yeah, you got a lot of class. All of it's low." But it was all very good-natured. It was, and they were laughing and carrying on, having a great time. You have something that you want to talk about here. We have Jesse Orozco.
Well, that's the point.
Was throwing in a key points in this series. And
years from now, you'll say, who was on the mound at the moments? And the man who was on the mound in Houston at the end of that 16-inning heartstopper, and the man who was on the mound when it ended last night.
Who was on the mound in Houston?
Jesse Orozco.
Okay.
And last night, Jesse Orozco.
Jesse Orozco again.
And in addition to that, Jesse Orozco faked the bunt and got the base hit. He got, if you're wondering why it was 8-5, he was credited for number 8. That's Ray Knight scoring yet another run for him. And then the moment that, I don't know, if you're a Mets fan, you can't see this highlight enough times. Orozco struck out Marty Barrett. And this is just, this is what they all strive for when you're a kid. This is that moment. And afterwards, Sal Marciano had a chance to speak with Jesse.
You were perfect in relief, and you were the last one on the mound, and you nailed it. I'm sure you'll never forget this.
Heck no. I hope somebody filmed it, because I want that tape. You know, I never will forget it. This is the biggest thrill of my life, and never been here before.
And Orozco is another player who there were moments when he didn't perform up to what he thought and the fans thought he should, and he wasn't speaking with some of the media. At times he would talk. You know, the relief pitcher is much like the goaltender. He's the last stop. You know, parents say, "Gee, I don't want my kid to be a goaltender sometimes," because he's, you know, all the other ones can make mistakes in front of you, but the ball gets behind the goaltender. Same with the relief pitcher. He's put in those situations. He's the one who didn't load the bases to begin with, and he is brought in. So Orozco delivered some key moments. Made them shaky at times, as Pat noted in Houston in that last inning, but he is just another one.
All there in anticipation. You know, last night when Orozco got that hit, I was in the newsroom. We were waiting to go on with the 11 o'clock news, which went on at about 11:50 last night. But the newsroom went nuts. Orozco, on top of everything else, got a hit when they were looking bunt.
through this window before you saw shots of some of the Mets. Those are not the Mets in uniform. They are in civilian clothes today, but there was a shot of Darryl Strawberry earlier, and I assume, yeah, those are the assistants who work the bench, bat boys, ball boys, fielding people. You know, there are kids who help out at times, take throws and you know, set up bats and do all kinds of odd jobs, and those are the fellows wearing the uniforms. But before Darryl Strawberry peeked out to see what was going on, the shot reminds me of almost papal platforms, you know, when the people are waving for big coronations.
You know, we haven't talked about the security measures they took last night. They were extremely effective, weren't they?
Absolutely. The show of force of the horses, you know, people made fun of Philadelphia and how they did it in 1980, but certainly worked last night.
I understand only 3 fans made it to the field, and they were escorted off rather rapidly.
And during the game, they made repeated announcements, and you noticed the celebration. It's the first clinching New York celebration, Yankee Stadium or Shea Stadium, where the players were allowed to do their celebrating on the field, on the mound. They weren't hampered by a lot of beer-infested fans running out and making fools out of themselves. And that was kind of nice to see that celebration on the mound.
When we go back and reflect on all the misplays and errors and close calls, I think there's sort of a destiny, a plan here with this team. Mike Taibbi pointed out the fact that he looked up last night over Shea Stadium and saw the geese, if you'll recall, flying the wrong way. The geese were flying north instead of south, going over the stadium in the fog. Now, they weren't disoriented. I thought about that, why the geese were going the wrong way. And it was clear to me that the Mets had the ability to turn anything around, including the geese heading south for the winter. You see, heading them back north. So it's necessary.
I hope they get to the platform real soon to make the speeches. No,
you think we go from geese and straight downhill, right? But it's obvious. I mean, you know, you have to. The Mets, the pattern of the Mets win in postseason play was come from behind, come from behind, come from behind. Suspense.
For the people who follow those statistical aberrations in the entire history of postseason play, never, ever, since 1903, ever had a team in postseason play had a 2-run lead in the 9th inning, 10th inning, or later and lost the game. It had never happened. And then this year in the playoffs and World Series, it happened 4 times. It happened twice in the California Series, and once in the Mets playoffs and once in the World Series. Amazing. The geese did it.
And our coverage of the
on
victory
the geese, shall we depart for
we are going to
just
depart.
A few
yes,
minutes?
We're going to gather our
We are going to be back, though, and the City Hall ceremony is going to take place.
Can we gander our thoughts?
Your love at first bite, outrageously right. New kudos, granola snacks. Pleasing, teasing, kudos, I'm yours. Nutty fudge, chocolate chip, or peanut butter. Kudos, you won me over any other. Electrifying, granolifying. Kudos, I'm yours. Smart and snazzy, rich and jazzy. Kudos, you absolutely drive me wild. Everyone knows the kudos, I'm yours. Sweet temptation in every bite. Kudos, you make me feel so right. Simply nutritious, outrageously delicious. Kudos, I'm yours. I'm yours. Kudos, I'm yours. I'm yours.
A couple of months ago, Tony moved out, and the children are living with me. So we talked about selling the house.
Well, after I finished
I'd like
college,
to wait.
I worked while my husband went to school. Now he runs the business that we started several years ago.
There are lots of bills. I can't afford to pay them all.
Sure, I'll need child support.
And for me, well, maybe until I get on my feet.
I
I want to be fair. This just doesn't sound simple.
Many divorces aren't. Why don't I call your husband's lawyer and see what we can agree on?
Jacoby and Myers, when it's time to call a lawyer.
Veterinarians know that puppies have special needs. So before Alpo made their puppy food, they consulted veterinarians nationwide, and the result is Alpo Puppy Food. With the formula preferred by responding vets 2-to-1 over the leading puppy food. Alpo is more digestible and has the high-quality protein a growing puppy needs. Alpo Puppy Food in cans and bags. Veterinarians prefer the formula. Puppies love the taste.
The focus of all the festivities now is New York City Hall. Tony Guide is standing by. Tony?
All right, Chuck, I'm here with Gabe Pressman, and if you think you folks are anticipatory about when all this is going to start, imagine this crowd. Many of them have been here since 8 this morning. I guess it's a tribute to their joy and jubilation about all this that they're not more restive than they are, although we have seen some City Hall workers, I guess, city employees up on the second floor conference room off the City Council chambers, standing in the window and doing a dance. You see them standing there. Earlier, when there was some music playing, they were dancing on that ledge, and so it's getting a little...
Yeah, the Municipal Art Commission, which is a very staid group that's supposed to ensure that no mayor or any other official tampers with the museum pieces at City Hall or any other public building. They've got a sign up there. I don't know if we can see it, but it says, Art Commission loves the Mets. So that's way up in the gallery there, under the clock.
It takes a Met victory in the World Series for New Yorkers to find out that there is an art commission. I'm not... Yeah, there's the sign. I'm not sure how many New Yorkers knew there was one, but it is squirreled away up in the third floor, as I remember, of City Hall. The program as it stands has the mayor coming out to introduce Bob Murphy, who's the voice of the Mets, has been with the Mets since the beginning, and is now heard on radio with Gary Thorne. And Bob Murphy is going to introduce each of the Mets individually, each of the ones that is here, and I hope they're all here. And then Julie LaRosa, baseball fan and noted New York singer, is going to sing the national anthem. And after that, the mayor is going to speak first. And I notice his speech, if he sticks to it, has a lot of references to baseball and who got key hits and when they did it and the plays that made the difference in this World Series. So someone who knows baseball wrote it for him.
I think he knows something about politics, and he knows how important this is, not only to New York City, but to him. Here's a mayor who was born to be a cheerleader, and he's always been one. And now, finally, in this disastrous year of municipal scandals, he has something to cheer about, and New York has something to cheer about. I'm not saying that that's his only motive, but certainly it colors a lot of what he's doing today. I think that Ed Koch is a master politician, and if baseball makes good politics, well, so be it.
He must be, as you say. He's obviously a very happy man today because there hasn't been much to smile about since January, and the news of the PBB scandal, I guess, as we could generally refer to it, and now with the Friedman trial going on up in New Haven, which you've been covering, there hasn't been a lot to smile about around City Hall, and of course the investigations continue, federal, state, and this is a beautiful oasis for Ed Koch, and I imagine he'd like the euphoria of it all to carry into next year and further into his term.
This has been a very bad year. It started with great euphoria, as you would put it, when he was inaugurated right on that platform over there on January the 1st. And the mayor was feeling very, very good about himself and about New York, and he had a great plan what he was going to do. And then on January 9th, the poor, unfortunate Donald Maness tried to kill himself, and in March he succeeded. And, of course, the procession of scandals you talked about have kind of undermined the mayor, at least his public image. And the man who used to go around saying, how am I doing, doesn't do it anymore. But today, there was a lot of the old Ed Koch. Koch, the cheerleader, marching ahead of the troops, and the troops are the people of New York. Although I noticed, you and I were talking about a few minutes ago, that this is a pretty young crowd. Substantially. There are some older folks in it. But there are a lot of kids who obviously are playing hooky, and a lot of young people.
This is a young crowd. I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of high school kids here. I had gone through the crowd earlier, talking to them, asking where they were from, and a group from Murray Bergstrom High School, which is just about a long single up the road here on Grove Street from City Hall, told me they had gone to school, but then had walked out about 10 o'clock this morning in a mass walkout and left the teachers standing there. One of the young ladies reported to me, she said the teachers wish they could be here today too. She said this is a New York City holiday, and it's been unofficially declared that by all these kids who have taken off from school. But getting back to your point, these are not voters. A lot of the people in this crowd are too young to be voters, but perhaps they'll remember this when they are in a couple of years.
The metaphor, Tony, of come from behind team kind of suits politicians and ball players too. Santana, Gary Carter, two of the ball players I talked to, I only talked to about three along the line of March. And, of course, the mayor and the governor, especially the governor, talked about the symbolism of this team and how it was the spirit, the resurrection of New York, the resurrection of the Mets, the come from behind nature of the Mets, and he likened it to the story of New York.
Of course, the theme of resurrection of this city has been the theme of the Koch administration ever since Ed Koch has come to office. Well, not from the first day he came to office, but the theme that has pervaded the Koch years has been, this is the man who brought the city back from fiscal ruin. There are those who would argue with that broad claim by the mayor that would make the point that there were others responsible and even earlier than Ed Koch. But anyway, that theme of rejuvenation and rebirth has been all over this administration and self-induced until this year, of course, the preeminent issue being the scandal. And as you recall, when the mayor stood on these steps back in January 1st, he painted a picture for a third term that he wanted to have attain historic proportions. I mean, he has
war on
poverty. He has long said that he wanted his third term to eclipse the third term of Fiorello LaGuardia. He wanted to be the greatest mayor in this city. Well, there are many people who think he is.
You're looking at the greatest moment of the third term so far, right out there.
It's taken almost a year for it to happen, and I bet Ed Koch is out of breath. They were playing some music here before. I guess you heard the band in the background, which we used to in radio call Music Fill. Still, the crowd waits. Still, a few people guzzle some beer. Now I see the ball boys coming out of Shea Stadium.
Signs of
this
life
is not Shea Stadium. This is City Hall.
Yeah, there's signs of life coming out of the City Hall version of the dugout, which is the rotunda, leading out from the mayor's office. Some of the kids are coming out.
I hope there's no discrimination today. I hope the ball girls are here, too. They've done a great job all year down the right field and left field line. Yeah, there's one of them. They were both of them. Well, with them coming out, I believe that we're about to see what this crowd came here so long ago to see.
The crowd is beginning to stand up on its... some of them have been sitting down on the ground. Now they're standing on chairs and on each other, and they're waiting expectantly for something to happen. I see a couple of women there, wives, I guess.
They appear to be wives of the Mets players. I think from this distance it's hard to tell, but I think that's Tony Darling, Ron Darling's wife, but don't hold me to that at this distance, and my farsightedness isn't helping me. There are more women and children coming out of City Hall, obviously families of the Mets players.
Right, there's a baby there, I see.
I think that's Darryl Strawberry's wife and young son at a few moments ago at the
window, I think, before.
Right, a few moments ago at the window when the crowd was yelling Darryl, Darryl, as sort of to parody the Boston crowd, which was getting on Darryl. He did come to the window with his son and had the son wave to the crowd.
It certainly looks like the Mets are fruitful and they are multiplying. Maybe there's some future Met teams in there, in the arms of their mothers right now. Some future players, I mean.
Well, if they know it's good for them, they'll learn how to play this game, which these days, if you're very good at it, and you really have to be very good at it when you think of all the athletes there are in this country who'd like to be Major League Baseball players, and there are only 600 and, multiply 24 times 26, and that's how many Major League Baseball players there are. It's 600, so it's a very, very minuscule percentage of the high school and college kids who aspire to this profession who make it. But when you make it and you make it big, like a Darryl Strawberry, and you get a contract for $1 million a year, or a Carter for 1.8, or a Keith Hernandez for 1.7, there's reason to be fruitful and multiply and have more come into the game.
Sounds like you're talking about appropriations for various budget items at City Hall. I think something's about to happen. They've certainly cleared the entrance, and I assume that the governor and the mayor and Davy Johnson and the Mets are about to come out, along with the sordid politicians and the ball players, the heroes of this crowd, the people that they're really waiting to see.
Here they come. I see Senator Al D'Amato. I see Manhattan Senator Roy Goodman coming out now. Who is that carrying the big bat? I can't tell. Some other aides now coming out, and when D'Amato comes out, can the action be far behind?
Yeah, there's Gary Louie, who is his man of action, his point man, the press agent for Senator D'Amato. He just came out. The senator is out here all by his lonesome. I don't see the rest of the political galaxy of New York.
Another man, of course, seeking re-election, who at least the polls say has no problem. Polls have been wrong before, as we know. But this is obviously a good day for Aldamato. I wonder if Mark Green, the Democrat who's running against Aldamato, has been invited to this procession. Here comes Ralph Kiner, the voice of the Mets. Right behind him, Julie LaRosa, Lee Mazzilli, and I guess that's Lee's wife. Someone in sunglasses carrying a child. Here comes Andy Stein, who's the city council president. You know, I wonder what time some of these Mets got to bed, or if they got to bed at all. I remember Keith Hernandez saying in the papers on Sunday, after Saturday night's game, that had the Mets lost that Saturday night game, which turned into an unbelievable victory, but had they lost that game, he was going out all night and get drunk. Now, if he's going to do that for a loss, I wonder what he's going to do for a victory.
There's Harrison J. Golden, and that reminds me that just before the parade started, about 10 minutes before it started, a couple of police cars with sirens wailing and a couple of cops suddenly arrived, going the wrong way, going down to the head of the parade, and they were escorting Ron Darling, and I guess it was his brother. He might have been celebrating pretty late.
Yeah, there was word that Ron arrived very late at the parade. I think it was Jane Hansen or Ellen Fleischer who reported that earlier, and when he strolled or rode down Broadway, it created something of a panic. But apparently they had to hold up the parade for a while for him. Now the parade that was coming out of the City Hall Rotunda has stopped momentarily as everybody gathers about and tries to figure out what's happening next. This is one of the I have to say, I've been to a lot of these ceremonies, and this is one of the most poorly organized I've ever seen at City Hall, in an administration that is known for running things pretty much like clockwork. Ed Koch runs things usually on time,
this is more like
and usually efficiently.
This is more like a Jewish wedding. It's a little late.
Okay, we're going to go back to the studio. I'm taking one more look into the rotunda. I can see through the crowd here. Let's go back to the studio for just a couple of minutes, and we'll come back here as soon as something happens.
More like a Jewish wedding.
That was Gabe, wasn't it?
Yeah. Gabe's always in there with just the right analogy. You have some more you want to talk about on the specific players here as we wait for them to come out for the ceremony to continue.
Well, let's, Davey Johnson, the manager, who told us during the offseason, yes, the Mets will win the pennant. He came right out. He was a very honest, straight-shooting guy, and then he was second-guessed after some critical plays during the World Series, and he comes up a winner. It all worked out for him. Let's listen to what Davey Johnson had to say.
At any time during the 7th game tonight, did you doubt your team at any time?
I really didn't. Tonight was kind of an in-sync game. You know, things were happening that I thought were programmed to happen, and the MVP really was Sid Hernandez coming in, shutting the door, and kind of changing the momentum around, I thought.
What is the meaning of Ray Knight to your club?
He's kind of been like Keith on the other side. He's been kind of the heart and soul. He's been in the game rooms. He creates a lot of emotion.
Okay, you're on the top now, Davey. What are your personal feelings?
Hey, listen, it's been a long fight. The bad guys won. I'm ready to relax. I'm going to Japan for 10 days with the best team in baseball. I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to enjoy life. And hopefully when it's over, I can play a little golf and fish.
You're going to give that computer of yours a rest?
I'll let it, work all winter, and I'm going to take off.
And to clear up some loose ends, he says the bad guys won. That's in reference to the fights they were in the Cooters incident. In the Japanese tour, some of the Mets and some other Major League players are going over and being compensated very well to give a tour. This happened several years back with the Dodgers would go over and Yankee
exhibition games.
Yeah, they play with the Japanese
teams.
And against the Japanese teams, and baseball is just a very huge sport.
How do they do against the Japanese teams?
Oh, well, the American players are better players. The stadiums are smaller over there, and yes, the United States players beat the Japanese players. And they're smaller players in Japan, which leads very nicely into our next Met we'd like to highlight, Lenny Dykstra. A little guy, wears number 4. I mean, Duke Snider played center field with the Dodgers and wore number 4. He doesn't have Snider's credentials yet, but what a big part Lenny Dykstra played in this World Series. It was his home run. Really, the leading off Game 3, it was the 3rd pitch of the game that really got the Mets going. The teammates said, hey, they were down 2 games to love, and that really got them going. And of course, Dykstra then in the next game, remember Dwight Evans going back and hit off his glove, and the picture of frustration, which really, that shot on Wade Boggs sums things up for the Red Sox. But let's hear from Dykstra.
I know you don't like to talk about yourself, but look where you came from this year. You earned a start in the starting lineup, and you became a hero in the playoffs and the World Series.
Well, I'll tell you, I was just glad to be here, and I knew when I got a chance to play, I could do the things I've done all my life, and I was just looking forward to it. And I'm so happy to be a part of the club and to help the club win, and I'm so happy for New York. We brought it home for them, and they've been supportive all year, and what a great team. This will be remembered forever.
Well, sure will by Mets fans. And remember the home run that Dykstra hit in Game 3 of the playoffs when they were trailing by a run. That was the first of a string of last at-bat victories. Remember in the playoffs, their last 3 wins came in the 9th, 12th, and 16th innings. And then this last win in Game 6 was in the 10th inning. And as we said before, 5 out of their last 7 wins in the playoffs and World Series from behind or in their last at-bat. And Lenny Dykstra really key play. He was not the starting center fielder to start the year.
Well,
and,
the Red Sox were very suspicious of this little guy with these huge hits. Remember the cork in the bat?
Well, that's right. There were some allegations
call they were making
after that home run that Evans couldn't catch. Dwight Evans said perhaps we should check his bat and maybe it's corked. The way the Mets had accused Mike Scott of using sandpaper was beginning to look like the hardware postseason play, the handyman special from the different accusations that they made. But Dykstra did play for a little guy.
A little man that plays a big game.
Yeah, you talk about the second guessing. There were people who were second guessing the decision last night not to start Dykstra and Backman.
Right. Well, but you noticed in all the games they did not start, they were definitely there at the end, and more often than not made key contributions. So there's the old line, and Red Auerbach from Boston uses it in basketball. It's not the guys who start, it's the guys who finish. And those guys did supply the finishing touches when they needed it.
I guess we can apply this to City Hall right now, too, to see. We're going to go down there to see if this Jewish wedding is ever going to be consummated. Let's go to Tony Guida and Gabe Pressman in City Hall. Looking City Hall. What are they chanting now?
Boring.
Boring.
Yes.
Boring, boring.
Sports fans have it nailed. They're good at that.
I wonder what the hang-up is. As Tony did say, usually Ed Koch is pretty good at organizing these things, and we've gone on and on and on here, waiting for the Mets to come out. And we just lost our camera. There we go. We're back in the overview.
What did they do, get drunk?
Dwight Gooden had a couple of outings in the World Series, and he is certainly one of the best young baseball players in the game today, but he didn't do terribly well.
Right. This year didn't stack up to his previous year or two, and you know, those who said, well, what do you expect of a 21-year-old? But in the World Series, he did lose 2 games, and we'd like to hear his comments now as he spoke with Sal Marciano afterwards about what happened to him.
So much has happened to you. Rookie of the Year, Cy Young. Now you're part of a World Championship team. A lot has happened to you.
That's true. A lot has happened, very early in my career, and it's tough. I just got to keep working hard, and hopefully, have a better year, next year than I did this year.
What do you say to Mets fans who perhaps doubt you now because of your pitching in postseason?
Well, I figured that was going to happen. Especially I didn't have strikeouts I had the first 2 years. I didn't have the wins I had last year. The year before, I had the same amount, but they kind of, I heard a couple boos, a couple starts I came out, but this time don't give up on me yet. Be patient, and this year, without a doubt, I'll bounce back.
I don't think anybody's given up on you.
Okay, I hope not.
Congratulations.
You're probably asking yourselves why is he wearing a football helmet. He was wearing the football helmet of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was a high school star at Hillsborough High School in Tampa, and we were clever. They supered his name, Mets quarterback. In the postseason play, he was not the best Mets pitcher in the World Series. Ron Darling maybe got that mantle, just as in Boston it was not Roger Clemens, it was Bruce Hurst. But the World Series does that. It's not, for Detroit, you think back to 1968, the last time a pitcher won 3 games in the World Series. During that regular season, Denny McClain had won 30 games, and here comes the World Series, and Mickey Lolich is the one who wins the 3 games. So strange things happen.
We shall return in just a minute with more of the coverage of the great celebration of the Mets' great victory.
I try to watch what I eat. These have 60% less fat, 45% fewer calories, and a very tasty name.
Jones Light Sausage.
I'm Mark Green, the Democrat running against Al D'Amato. Here's what his commercials don't tell you. He's against handgun control. You and I are for it. He's against a woman's right to choose. You and I support it. He's voted 16 times to cut Social Security and student loans. Would you have done that? And he's taken $1 million from big special interests. I don't take any of their money. Now, if you don't agree with Al D'Amato, why vote for him? I'm Mark Green.
No wax floor, what a chore.
Don't settle for less than Less Toil. Less Toil has 35% more active cleaners than that leading heavy-duty liquid.
No more mess, why settle for less?
Don't settle for less than Less Toil.
Laundry stain, what a pain.
Don't settle for less than Less Toil. Less Toil has 35% more active cleaners than the leading laundry pre-spotter.
No more mess, why settle for less?
Don't settle for less than Less Toil.
Does drug testing belong in your workplace? Starts Wednesday at 5 and 6.
Backfire.
Can't go through this.
Okay, Pat, we're back.
Oops.
Got caught smoking. You're going to get letters now.
I was
from
promised
the
a 30. I didn't get it.
Well, this is going about as smoothly as the City Hall ceremony right now, waiting for the Mets to come out. Lee Mazzilli is another guy whose star just rose in the final weeks of this season here.
Yeah, and most people in the media are very happy. He's very personable and gets along well, and always tells the media people insights and off the record. And he's just well liked, and lives in Connecticut, and was a former Met. You know, in the poor Mets days, he was the poster boy. He was the only one that they advertised as rally around Lee Mazzilli, and he wasn't really a superstar, and isn't a superstar. He had one good year and hit a home run in the All-Star game in '79, but then he left, winds up with the last place ball club in Pittsburgh. They cut him. He was out of, didn't have a job, and accepted the job in the minor leagues. And we'll take a couple of highlights of the contributions that Lee Mazzilli made. But the Brooklyn-born kid coming back to the Mets, and here he is in the World Series. And Game 7, the pinch hit started the rally, and he's the one who started the comeback. Also had a key hit in Game 6.
This is inning number 6 last night. They came up dry.
Right. And he started the comeback. Let's hear from Lee.
Whoops.
I got it started, and 23 other guys finished it for me. That's the way I look at it. When we're all a team, we win this together, we lose it together, and we all did our job.
In April of this year, in your wildest imagination, could you ever have believed?
Well, there was some talk in April that I was a possibility of me getting traded back to the Mets. When that fell through, and I didn't think there was any hope. But like I said, I'm just grateful to be back.
During one of the games, I was under the stands, and some fan grabs me and says, "I'm Lee's dad." I had done it once and had his mom on another broadcast once. But, of course, Brooklyn and his parents still live there, and it's very exciting to have that happen.
All right. I'm reminded of Gary Carter's father in the stands when Carter had his spectacular game in Boston.
Maybe we should check in with City Hall and see. I understand they are coming out. Why don't we go back to Tony Guida and to Gabe Pressman at City Hall for the ceremony?
All right, Pat. At 2:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, about an hour late and 14 and a half hours after the Mets won the 1986 World Series, Ed Koch finally came out of City Hall, the governor right behind him. The music, New York, New York, the Frank Sinatra version, which has sort of become a theme of the New York Mets. If you've been out to Shea Stadium, and you've heard it early and often. And I guess this means something's about to start, and all that political advantage Gabe Pressman was talking about earlier, that accrues from an event like this, may have been squandered in the last hour, because recently this crowd was booing, and it's certainly something Ed Koch doesn't want to hear today.
No, but I think they always like to boo politicians. I see flash bulbs flashing there in the rotunda. I think the Met players are about to come out, I assume. You just see the edge of the cutting edge of that group out there. Well, on the screen, you're looking at some officials, I think, aides in City Hall and probably aides to the Mets. They're trying to fill up those. They're trying to fill up those. There are 2 rows of chairs still open in the front, which I assume are reserved for the Mets players. And if they're sticking to the program, Ed Koch is going to introduce Bob Murphy, the radio announcer and voice of the Mets, who's going to bring them out one by one to great acclaim. I thought they'd already be out when he introduced them. I see the idea. So to let them come out of the rotunda one by one.
I think that's the idea, and I know we've been tantalizing the audience all morning and into the early afternoon with news that something's about to happen, but when the mayor comes out, you got to believe that it's about to start, but it still looks like it's a confused mess in there.
Yeah, and even on the dais, there are the mayor and the governor sitting with about 20 empty chairs, or maybe 25, all by themselves, which is kind of a sad-looking picture. I guess whatever the snafu is, it still hasn't been completely overcome. The crowd is cheering and demanding that the players come out. There's a cluster of people there in the rotunda. I can see it's quite cavernous. It's dark, but I can make out that there's an edge of people, and they're halted.
I think this is what we've been waiting for. Well, we're going to get the audio of the Mets video one more time. If you don't know the words by now, it's something like, let's go, Mets, go. We've got the teamwork to make the dream work, and I guess they did. It's about 4.5 minutes long, so perhaps they're going to bring out the Mets to this music.
Joining me now to introduce the 1986 World Champions is the voice of the Mets, Bob Murphy. Bob, it's all yours.
And there's
Thank you, Mayor Koch. Thanks for being here, everybody. What a marvelous day. Can you hear me all right? I have the privilege and pleasure of introducing the world champion Mets to you. Before I do, I would like to acknowledge the presence of another team that does a marvelous job. First, just say hello to my radio partner, Gary Thorne, sitting back here. Timmy McCarver, who does it any better, is here. My colleague for a lot of years, Ralph Kiner. I think Ralph's over here working on Channel 9 right now. Steve Zabriskie and Fran Healy. They're wonderful people to work with. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here are the 1986 World Championship New York Mets. As they are introduced, they will come down and receive a key to the city from Mayor Koch. First, may I present to you his third World Series, an all-time Mets favorite, Buddy Harrelson. Buddy? The hitting coach and a former World Series star, Bill Robinson. The pitching coach of the New York Mets and a former star in his own right, Mel Stottlemyre. Coach Greg Pavlik of the New York Mets. The head trainer of the New York Mets, Steve Garland. And the assistant trainer, Bob Sykes. Very popular and very important man on this ball club, the equipment manager, Charlie Samuels. A happy day for Charlie. Now, ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you the manager of the New York Mets, Davy Johnson. A young man who came up late in the year, has a great future in front of him, John Gibbons. Talented pitcher, Rick Anderson. This man turned the game around for New York last night, Sid Hernandez. Catcher, Eddie Hearn. This gentleman struck out the last batter of the World Series game, Jesse Orozco. And his talented partner in the bullpen, Roger McDowell. Pitcher, Randy Neiman. And right-hand pitcher, Doug Sisk. Another of the many talented pitchers, Rick Aguilera. He helped so much all year long, and in postseason play, Danny Heath. as did switch hitter Howard Johnson. He had a magnificent season and a magnificent postseason. Bobby Ojeda. This man hit a monster home run last night. Darryl Strawberry. Keith Hernandez. And a hometown boy, Lee Mazzilli. One of the pitching stars of the series, Ron Darling. And infielder Timmy Tuffle. They call him the kid, but he's all man, Gary Carter. What a rookie, Kevin Mitchell. Kevin Mitchell. At Shea Stadium, the cry is Wally, Wally, Wally Backman. And his talented buddy, they call Nails, Lynn Dykstra. This man is as smooth as he can be, Rafael Santana. And the young backup shortstop, Kevin Elster. How can you find a more exciting player than Mookie Wilson? Before the last introduction, collectively, would you please say hello to a wonderful group of women. They are the wives of the Mets players. We're delighted they're all here with us today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our final introduction. Here is the most valuable player in the World Series, Ray Knight. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we ask everybody to remain standing. We are so fortunate to have a great Mets fan with us here today, who also happens to be one of the most talented performers in America. He will sing our national anthem. Would you welcome Julie LaRosa? Julie?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Mets have made us all feel like a family here in New York, and I ask you, please join me in singing our national anthem as a family. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bomb bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow. To be seated. To be seated. Right. To be seated. Thank you, Bob and Julius. First, an announcement. An announcement. The police official estimate of the crowd is 2.2 million people, the largest that we have ever had in any parade. The largest. Now, I asked the Mets to be here today for a very special reason. I want to present them with a bill. The bill is for 7.5 million cases of nervous collapse. This was a very unusual World Series. Usually, the World Series begins with the first pitch of the first game. Listen. Can't compete with a kid. Darryl, I can't compete with this kid. This is tough stuff. Listen. Hold it, hold it. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. But you got to listen. Shh. The little secret is this. I learned about baseball this year. And I learned it the easy way. I learned it watching the Mets. I have never been so enthralled, so excited at a sports event, and I'm very grateful to them. Very grateful. Now, I want to tell you how much I've learned. So you got to listen. This year, the series began with the third pitch of the third game. Oil Can Boyd threw a fastball, and Lenny Dykstra drove it into the right field. Listen, I am not going to read my speech. I am not going to read it. Instead, I'm going to tell you a couple of little things, and then we'll go on to others. Hold it. The city of New York is very proud. You know why? Because we are the international capital of the world, but the Mets made us in the very best way for all that it means, in the words of the great governor of the state of New York, a family. The Mets made of the city of New York a small town with love and affection, where everybody in this city knows one another. Today, we're all one family. And you guys did it. Now, I want to introduce someone who really gave up a lot today to be with us. You know, this happens to be an election year, and I know the governor would rather be out campaigning someplace. You know, oh yes, you know, I want you to know that on a few days before an election, having a large crowd like this is not exactly what you would pass by. But I also want you to know that the governor of the state of New York is also one of the great baseball players, almost, but without question is the greatest governor of the state of New York. Let's hear it for Mario Cuomo.
Thank you very much. One sentence. One sentence, because I'm dying to hear from the players. The whole state of New York is very, very proud of this team and very grateful to the Mets. Not just for winning, but for the way they won, for teaching us lessons about courage and coming from behind, for doing it the way New York has always done it. Now, they won 116 games this year. I'm looking forward to their winning 117 games next year and coming back here to a parade with 2.5 million people. I love the Mets. We're grateful to them. Thank you very, very much.
He is a smart governor. This is tough stuff, you know. Tough stuff. Now, if you don't let me do this, I'm going to have a lot of trouble all of the balance of the year. I got to introduce, and please help me. I have to introduce with pleasure, with pride, the members of the Board of Estimate. City Council President Andy Stein. Oh boy. Controller Jay Golden. Bronx President Stanley Simon. Brooklyn Borough President Howie Golden. Manhattan Borough President David Dinkins. Staten Island Borough President Ralph Lamberti. Now, didn't I do all those people a big favor? You bet, we're getting there. Now, listen, I have to now introduce with pleasure the president of the Borough of Queens, home of Shea Stadium, Claire Schulman.
Let's go Mets!
Peter Vallone. New York City Council says, let's go Mets! Smart man, Peter Vallone. Now, a warm welcome for the president of the New York Mets, to whom I'm going to give a well-deserved key to the city, Fred Wilpon. Well, you'll get it later. Wait a second. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. There you go. There you go.
There.
I want to thank you very much for all your cooperation this year.
Still lost the malt?
On behalf of my partner Nelson Doubleday, the board of directors,
Going to the malt feed.
all the members of the Mets team, we love you. We'll be back next year to give you more time.
Off the table.
The Mets general manager, Frank. On the podium, ladies and gentlemen, Mets fans everywhere.
I want to thank all of you for a very glorious and an unforgettable year, and promise you that there are more to come. I want to thank particularly the New York City Police Department for the outstanding job that they did last night and have continued to do. And now I would like to have you witness something that very few cities have the opportunity to do, and that is the presentation of the world's champion baseball trophy right behind me. There it is.
This is Tony Guida on the podium at City Hall, and in case you're wondering what happened to the sound, so are we, and we wish we could get it fixed for you, and we're doing the best we can, but apparently the main source of audio has failed, and we're going to try to pick this up from the speakers and the public address system. It's not going to be as good as it was before, but bear with us.
Next year, same time. The most valuable player in the World Series, Ray Knight. It's really a great thrill to be here today, and obviously that's what we've accomplished. The only thing that I really want to say is you're looking at 24 of the most wonderful men that I've ever been associated with. In 16 years of professional baseball, I've never seen... I thought it was going to be a flood here. I've never seen a group of guys that give everything that they have with just great heart, great determination, and never giving up. Obviously, 116 wins proves that. Thank you very much for your support. Great pitchers deserve a great catcher, and here he is, the greatest Charlie Carter. Fantastic year for the New York Mets, and I know personally I'm very, very proud to be a part of this great team. And for all your support all throughout the whole year, thank you for making a dream come true. Well, now on first base, the one and only Keith Hernandez. Your fans are great. I have to say one thing, I'll make it real short. You made the difference in game 6 and 7. Boston couldn't handle the Mets fans. Thanks for your support. The guy with the unforgettable name, Mookie Wilson. Thank you. 1986. Year of the Mets. 1987, year of the Mets. 1988, year of the Mets. Ladies and gentlemen, you're coming back here next year to celebrate the same event we're winning again in 87. Take care and God bless. Number 1.
Well, you have seen a somewhat abbreviated ceremony here on the steps of City Hall, abbreviated by necessity. This crowd had no patience and no stomach for politicians, and they knew it. And they all they did was say hello and got off quickly, which was about the wisest thing they could do, because this crowd wanted to see and hear ball players.
But Ed Koch was between a rock and a hard place, because he had the city council out there, the majority leader, Peter Malone, the borough president of Queens, which is, after all, where the Mets are from, and a whole list of people he had to introduce. His speech ran too long. The governor took the cue from the crowd and made his speech short, but the best speeches were not the politician speeches. They were the ball players. One sentence each, and Davy Johnson himself.
And the mayor indeed cut his speech, which was about 4 pages. He cut it short, too. You're right, Gabe. The best words came from the mouths of those ball players, and perhaps not to try to single it out, but I thought Keith Hernandez spoke to the emotion of this crowd mostly when he said it was you who made the difference in Game 6 and Game 7. I was there in Shea Stadium both nights, and the unbelievable roar that went up in the 10th inning when the Mets started to come back against Boston in a situation in which they were dead. I mean, there was no one who believed they could do that, and the crowd literally cracked the concrete at Shea Stadium. And I believe there is a home field advantage. We didn't see it in this series for the first 4 games, but one of the Mets, and I think it was Darryl Strawberry, perhaps Lenny Berman can correct me later if I'm wrong, talked about the unbelievable noise and jubilation at Shea Stadium as almost being a disadvantage, putting so much pressure on a ball player to come through that they feel extra pressure. And Darryl Strawberry, at many times in this season, has played better on the road than he did at Shea Stadium.
But when you see a guy like Gary Carter, or you see Mookie Wilson standing up there a little while ago and saying 1987, 1988, 1989, you know that the psychological element is very important to a ball club, and these guys are all revved up. They're still revved up. They haven't come down yet, and you get that feeling. I was behind Carter for about 4 or 5 blocks in the parade. Surges of people, the cops fighting to keep them back, and Carter was just, his hands up in the air, number one, yelling at the crowd, the most valuable of all the ball players. That spirit, which is so important, and the catcher is always at a ball club, I guess, the focal point of that spirit. Still emoting, still coming out of Gary Carter, even after, I'm sure, a relatively sleepless night.
Well, Gary Carter, of course, is valuable enough when he's, the minute he gets up in the morning, and he can be 1,000 watts of power and energy eating a bowl of oatmeal. I mean, the man is always on. Davy Johnson, who has a 3-year contract, incidentally, with the Mets that runs through 1988 as their manager, was quoted, I don't know, sometime earlier this year as saying he thought that 1988 might be his best year yet as Mets manager. He wasn't discounting that they'd win it this year, but he was looking ahead to a young ball club maturing and saying 1988 he thought might be his best year yet. I don't know how Davy Johnson thinks he can top this year and what the Mets have accomplished after so long a time waiting, and after a season last season, 1985 season, when they were so good and won 98 games, which ordinarily is more than enough to win an Eastern Division title and go on perhaps to win the pennant, and they didn't win it in '85, so they had to go back through it again this year. I don't know how you top that.
No, as we're talking, you can see the kids here, and they're mostly kids, are mugging for the cameras, which is part of our late 20th century civilization. Sometimes you don't know whether you're in a Fellini movie, whether they are acting for us or they're acting for themselves. Today they're largely acting for themselves. They're full of spirit, but they want to get their pictures taken so the folks back home can see.
Well, if this is Fellini, it's La Dolce Vita. Maybe I have my Italian directors mixed up. But anyway, we're going to leave this La Dolce Vita here at City Hall Park, and